Hey everyone, welcome to GameFace, episode 291 on Sifted Games at sifted.net. I'm Shane Satterfield, your host for the show, and alongside me is Matt Kyle. What's going on, Matt?
Not much.
Not much?
Long commute today. Took forever to get here.
Welcome to our new home, at least for now. While we look for a new studio that we can afford, we are back in Matt's house, but obviously in a different location in the house than we did the show before. How long ago was that now that we did the show? 3 years maybe here? Something like that?
Yeah, that was like, I think we did, it ended in like, what, mid-2019?
Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
Yeah, because you signed the lease for that new place, like, the other place in like July, and that ran out in a June.
Yeah.
And then you moved to the new place in July.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So yeah.
What do you guys think? We did our best that we could. I think it looks pretty great.
Looks all right. If the closet door wasn't back here, you wouldn't be able to tell that we're in a house.
Yep. So we're very excited, and we should also thank Matt for inviting us into his home and allowing us to do the show here. It's amazing of you. Thank you, my brother.
I don't really use this room, so.
Yeah. And now you don't have to drive to do the show.
Yeah, I mean, that's
you
a
just
that's
roll
a
out of
fine
bed
trade-off.
And you're good to go. Yeah. A couple things before we get going, because we did just literally get in here last night. I think I left your house last night at like 9 or something like that. There are a couple things that we will not have in this first episode. So I know you guys are going to be devastated to hear this, but I will not have my one shot today. We only have 2 cameras instead of the full 3 cameras. That will be fixed for next week. And actually, the bigger deal is that we won't be able to bring the chat into the actual show today. And we'll fix that as well for next week's episode. I'm just glad we're able to do this today at all. Again, a big thanks to Matt. Obviously, there's a really big game that just came out, and I think it's better to do the show with a couple cameras and no chat, and to get that information out to you guys instead of waiting for next week until we get everything lined up. So hopefully you guys are cool with it. I'm going to have to watch the chat old school style in this episode here on my little iPad. Usually I have a big computer monitor here, and Matt can see it too, which is helpful. So we're going old school again. I do want to thank people for Twitch Prime still, though, if I can find it in here. First of all, Lestevid, or Lesteve D, is giving people tier 1 subs. Thank you for that. That's awesome. Corey Film, thank you for Twitch Prime. Ptor91, thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome. What else we got here? It is just starting the month, so some of you guys may have turned over, actually. Commander Fett, thank you for subscribing at tier 1. That's awesome. People in chat giving you love, Matt, and thanks for providing a new spot for us. And Vincent says you can still see the chat. We can, but again, it's on an iPad. So I won't be able to pay as close attention to it as I have been for the last, year or something like that. But we'll get it all fixed for next week's episode, and we'll be good to go from there. So what else do I got here? Tokyo Game Show, Matt. Coming back this year in full with a legit full in-person event.
Yep.
What do you think that means for other... Obviously, it's too late for E3. Did E3 totally blow it by calling it too early?
They might have. I mean, before this started, I was watching the LA City Council meeting on like lifting all the restrictions, and they're worried about schools and stuff. But all the reports on the hospitalizations right now are like LA's got less than 120 hospitalized COVID cases, and I think like 40 of those actually are in the hospital for COVID, and the rest are just patients who happen to have tested positive for COVID.
But they're in there for
something else.
Gotcha.
So it's actually real good.
It's great
right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously things could change on turn on a dime.
Yeah.
But it's looking like by June, especially considering the historic, last year the everything got better during the summer as well because everybody was outside and it wasn't so much cramming into things. You could do outdoor dining easier because it has been cold this winter.
Yeah, for sure.
For LA.
Mm-hmm.
But
relatively speaking.
Yeah. But no, it looks pretty. So it looks like they probably could have done an in-person event in June.
I think we even said that they may have been jumping the gun a little bit.
Yeah, but I really feel like they just didn't want to anyway, and this gave them an opening to say like, oh, it was like a save face move to me. I think it, but for whatever reason they just didn't want to do it again this year, and maybe they thought they couldn't get it off the ground properly. That they got to do a return of E3, you kind of got to do a big deal somehow, and they didn't have it. Also, I wonder how many companies are just sort of like, last year went kind of fine. We don't really feel like shelling out $10 million for our booth space this year.
It's possible. It could have been that the publishers just weren't interested.
Yeah.
And they had kind of caught that vibe and were like, you know what? Let's just wait another year.
No one's revenue is down. The lack of E3
companies,
hasn't hurt anybody except the ESA.
Yeah,
so
it's true.
And arguably outlets, press outlets, because they have less. But there's still tons of stuff to report on. Just wasn't E3.
Yeah. Tokyo Game Show has an advantage. Obviously, it's towards the end of the year. It's September this year. It's September 15th through the 19th.
Towards the end of the year, open to the public. Although again, it's mostly it's not E3. It's a lot of mobile. There's a lot of niche stuff. It's it's not market. It's not what it used to be.
Yeah.
When Japan was sort of the epicenter of games, it was a different experience.
I still wouldn't go there to cover it.
No, absolutely not. Just for the expense, it's not worth it. Yeah.
Now, if I wanted to go to Japan and I was like, what date should I pick to go visit? And I was someone like us, then I may plan around TGS to go to Japan.
I don't think
it is really hot and sweaty there.
Yeah, it's still tail end of typhoon season. You get a bunch of hot storms and stuff. I would go for the cherry blossom festival myself.
Anytime is a good time.
Because I've never been there except during TGS, so I'm kind of seen it.
I was there for a documentary that I shot, and that was, I'm trying to remember. I think it was in early June. It was hot. Yeah, it was blistering hot there. Anytime's a good time to go to Japan. It's an amazing country. But if you're a big gamer and you want to pick a time, it is hot there in September still, believe it or not. But it is probably the ideal date. It's probably flights are cheaper then too for the most part because it's not really the vacation season, blah, blah, blah. What do you think is going to happen with Gamescom? Do you think Gamescom might try to do some in-person stuff now?
I don't know. I mean, the option is probably there, but I feel like Germany has other things to worry about right now.
Yeah, the instability in Europe right now.
Traveling to Europe may not be on everyone's top plan, so we'll see how that. But I think just isolated to the COVID situation, I feel like you could probably get away with it unless something really changes.
Yeah, related to COVID, I think. I hate to jinx anything, and I don't believe in jinxes anyway, but it seems like
I wish we had that kind of power over things. I wish something I could say would change how reality works. That would be amazing, but no.
It's so funny how people believe in that stuff, jinxes and things. Like all my friends who are sports fans, they're like, don't say that. It's like, you really think what I said is going to have an impact on whether the 76ers win a basketball
I've people mad at me for suggesting things like, oh, this could happen. Like, you're going to jinx. I'm like, no, I'm not. Nothing I say has anything to do with what Tom Brady's going to do. I
don't
promise.
believe in any of that crap.
No.
I'm a reality-based person.
Yeah, same.
So anyway, TGS coming back. I'd say Gamescom 25-30% chance of coming back.
There's a chance, but
you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah, but
it's a slim one.
There's some bigger fish to fry in Europe right now, so I'll probably be over
by
then. But I think,
be over by then?
Oh yeah, I would think so.
I hope so.
But there's gonna be repercussions and questions, etc. But I think just in terms of the pandemic, you could probably do it.
Yeah.
The question becomes E3, I think, also was paranoid, and I think any major conference is going to have to be paranoid in the sense that, you can't just pick it at a time when the regulations are going to be lifted or eased enough that you're going to be allowed to hold it. You have to have it at a time when the international community is willing to travel to it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Although, I think Europe's probably enough to fill that show up.
Probably, but you want it to be a global event again, and particularly E3. Even at the time, we didn't know what June was going to look like. But even at the time, you had a lot of people outside the U.S. saying I ain't going to the U.S. Look at how crazy they're being about just being basic science about this. It's like. The people didn't feel safe just coming here at all, even if they had lifted restrictions. So they might have made a smart decision then. But I do think by calling it so early, they were kind of tipping their hand by saying, we don't really want to do it this year. And maybe part of that is because they didn't know if people would be willing to come from all over the world, like they always do. But, part of it feels to me like we don't really have a show this year. We want to wait and try to... I probably want to do some face-to-face meetings with some of these publishers and sort of convince them that they're a good idea again, and that kind of the ESA's lifeblood is riding on this thing. So. Yeah, and we still don't really have any details on the supposed digital E3 or whatever they're doing there. I don't know.
I don't even know if that's gonna happen.
Doesn't sound like it. Like, they haven't said a word.
Yeah, no, and it's coming up fast. Really fast.
Yeah. I mean, I think other companies, like Nintendo and various companies will have, like, directs and...
Yeah, they'll do their own thing around that time frame, for sure.
Because it's expected.
And Jeff will do something.
Yeah, Jeff will do his Summer Games thing in some form.
Yeah.
There will be something, but, like, I don't know.
Yep. One other thing before we get going, and we're going to talk about Elden Ring today, and are we going to talk about it? I'm sure we're going to have a really long conversation about Elden Ring. There's a lot to discuss. But one other thing before we get going, we are going to have a pretty big scoop this week. And I know you're sitting there saying, well, how do you know that? I've been sitting on some information for a little while here, and we are going to break it this week. I don't want to build it up to be some gigantic thing. It might be, but...
Pretty good.
Yeah, I want to err on the side of caution on this stuff. I've been trying to figure out how to roll out the information now for about a week and a half, and I think I have a pretty good plan. And so just keep an eye on sifted.net this week. There's going to be, I think, some pretty big news breaking on the site. And then finally...
I think you're going to see a lot of new eyeballs.
I think so. I think we may have to spin up some more servers on sifted.net.
Some more servers and maybe some security.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. I have not looked into that yet. Maybe I should over the next couple days. And then one final point. Good Morning Gaming is now officially day and date on YouTube. For totally free. We've launched so many shows on Sifted. Literally, I think at this point we're up to like the 40s. I'm not exaggerating. In the number of shows or segments that we've launched since Sifted launched. And they come and go. A lot of times people like them at first and then they fall off. They quit watching them. And sometimes that's just the content. Maybe we have a concept that works for a few episodes and then doesn't sustain. Good Morning Gaming appears to be something that people really, really like. It is anywhere from 12 to 25 minute podcast that sits in podcast feeds in the morning for all our patrons. And that is the advantage our patrons still have. They've been very gracious and they've allowed us to publish this for free. So YouTube folks, thank our patrons. It's all because of them. Like, I did not force this. I asked them and they were like, do it. But they still have an advantage. They get the podcast, Good Morning Gaming, in their podcast feeds every morning. And that is the way the show is meant to be consumed. The idea is you wake up in the morning, you're taking a shower, you're driving to work, you're riding the train, and you listen to it. And it prepares you for your day. And I try to keep everything upbeat for the most part so that it energizes you and gets you into your day. So it's the ideal way to consume Good Morning Gaming is to be a patron and consume it in a podcast feed. However, we did want to give it to people for free on our YouTube channel, and our patrons have obliged. So we've now had the first 2 episodes live on YouTube at the same exact moment that it goes to our patrons, and that is going to continue. Last night's episode, I don't know how I got it done. I left here at like 9 and hadn't done anything, and the show went up around like 11:45. So it took me 20-some minutes to get home from here. I did that whole episode, everything told, in like a little over 2 hours. So, again, big deal for us. This is the first show we have ever released at the exact same time for our YouTube audience. So I hope you guys like it. Yesterday's episode, today's episode actually, got a ton of comments on YouTube, relatively speaking, for us. So hopefully people are excited about it. Please share it on social media when you can. If you really like the show, tell people. Tell people why you like it. It can make a big difference for us. And while you're at it, if you're listening to this show on any of the podcast service, give us a review. If you can't afford to contribute, at patreon.com/sifted. All this stuff helps. So if you're broke, and I've been there, and you're trying to figure out a way to help us, help Sifted, social media sharing is great. Twitch Prime is great. A lot of you guys are already doing that. There's ways that you can help us without spending a penny, and we appreciate it very, very much. So with that, it's time to talk about one of the biggest games of 2022. We're going to talk about...
Apparently the game of the year 2022.
We'll get to that.
According to some people who haven't played all the other games of 2022 yet.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Actually, before we go on, I do want to thank other people for Twitch Prime. Derek D111, Norris Nessie 94, Fire Native. Thank all you guys. Mitch Sakor, thank you for Twitch Prime. Rosencrantz, thank you for sharing all the subs.
Sorry about Guildenstern.
Okay, we're good. All right, so I want to do this discussion kind of how we did Horizon Forbidden West last week. I want to try to keep it structured so that we make sure we hit everything. And I did see the comments on the show last week. People could tell. They were like, this was the most in-depth discussion on Horizon Forbidden West, and that's because I made sure that we went doink, doink, doink through all the different elements of any game. And I want to kind of do that with this one if we can. Obviously, sometimes you and I will fly off on a tangent. Totally fine. But I'll try to bring us back when we can. Elden Ring, is it still sitting at a 9.7?
Last I saw, yeah.
So one of the highest reviewed games of all time.
It's second highest of all time as far as I remember.
It's up there with Breath of the Wild, Ocarina of Time. What other games are up there?
Breath of the Wild, Ocarina of Time, I think GTA 5. Mario 64 is up there.
Super Mario Odyssey 1 or 2 maybe?
Odyssey's up there, yeah. Galaxy's up there.
I'm sorry, I meant Galaxy actually. Yeah. Is 1 higher than 2?
Yes.
Because 2 is way better.
I agree, but one reviewed better.
Okay. So it is on the upper echelon of all video game releases ever.
Yep.
Let's talk about, again, we're going to do this in a structured way. Let's talk about the story first. Now, the story wasn't actually written by George R.R. Martin of Game of Thrones fame. He created, like, the world and the mythos.
Created basically the world Bible, like this story Bible, basically. Which is funny because like it's just Dark Souls again, like with the words find replace. Like it feels like they didn't have Martin write a backstory for it so much as they just played Dark Souls Mad Libs with him.
Yeah,
instead of like fire, it's grace.
Yeah,
instead of like
souls,
it's shards from a ring. Instead of a dark soul, it's a gold ring. It's like it's all the same thing.
Same premise, yeah.
Yeah, and there's even hints in it that it's in the same universe. I
didn't pick up on
various characters are referenced here and there. As one of them is a repeat from another game. Like,
what about the Dung Eater? Is he from another game?
I don't know about that. But but those could be Easter eggs or they could be lore. I don't know. Like I haven't seen anyone do a 2-hour lore dissection video yet, so I'm sure they'll be coming later. Everyone's still playing the game.
Yeah.
But like eventually the right now it's the gameplay people who are like, the center stage, and eventually the lore people will come in and sort of dissect things and make 2-hour like Elden Ring explained videos and things like that. So right now it's just I'm not a huge proponent of the stories of these games.
Mad taint.
Like like the intro stuff does have some Martin to it. But the shattering, it's like okay, like
it takes itself really seriously. That's for sure.
The story sections do. The main game has a lot more levity to it in places. Yes. This woman who puts her own arm back on. It's if you didn't tell me George R.R. Martin was involved in this, I would never know.
Yeah.
Like it's not
there's no pedigree there that's clear to see. That's for sure.
Not at all. Like I'm sure he did like 3 days of work and gave them some suggestions and
was paid a big chunk of money.
So he paid a lot of money to have his name on it.
Yeah.
So
it worked. It helped draw my interest to the game.
And it helped draw a lot of people's eyes on it. I've certainly had people ask me about this game who otherwise have never bothered with any kind of Dark Souls from anything.
Because they're wondering if they'll ever see anything from George R.R. Martin saw his name ever again.
And I kind of had to explain, like, oh, those games that I showed you that you never wanted to play because they looked so difficult? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, it's just that.
That's
again.
it.
It's that again. It's if you didn't, there's some people I've seen that haven't gotten into a Souls game before that really like this one, but like, I don't know how much that says about Elden Ring so much as just like that everyone's going to have a slightly different entryway into this subgenre. In the same way that my entryway was Dark Souls 2. Like I played Demon Souls and Dark Souls, and then I didn't like them. I bounced off them. And then I played Dark Souls 2, and halfway through that game, it clicked. And I'm like, oh, I get it. I understand now. And then I went back to Demon Souls and Dark Souls, and I loved them. So, like, you never know what is going to be the thing that finally gets you over that hump. And for some people, I'm sure the fact that you can hit a wall in this game and then just turn around and go fuck off for 15 hours is probably a really good thing, It's certainly what I did.
Yeah. We'll get into all that stuff.
So I think that, like... I think Martin got more eyeballs on it that otherwise would not have been on it. Like that was really, and that was mission accomplished. Like that's the whole point of involving him in this.
Yeah, it worked.
and not to disparage the story. I like the story. It's
well,
it's
the basic
fine.
story is the Elden Ring has been shattered into 8 pieces or something.
Oh, every single piece of currency you pick up is a part of that ring. Like that was a big ring apparently.
Oh, I thought it was just like 8 pieces or whatever. And
those are the great runes are like the main pieces that each of the big bosses, the shard masters, have, which are just Lords of Cinder by another name. But like it's instead of getting great souls, you're getting great runes. Instead, it's all the same fucking thing.
And the idea is to go and kill the bosses, collect the shards,
and then you bring them back, and then you form the thing, and it lets you through in the final area, and then you fight the big things in there, and then like that's the end. And you probably have to make a choice about whether to be horrible or slightly less horrible, and then we'll have to wait until the next game to find out which one's canon.
Yeah.
So,
the story is not particularly prevalent in the game.
No, they never are. Like the stories in these games are there if you want them and there if you want to find them. Like Dark Souls stories are mostly told through scraps of paper you find, and you can go to the wiki and find all this detailed information about stuff. Then I pieced all this together out of like 4 memos you find in like hidden places in the back of Blight Town, and like 2 speeches given by 2 characters you might not even talk to enough to get that bit of dialogue out of. Yeah. And like that's where it is. If you don't care about the story, you never really have to engage with it.
There are no real like cinematics that move the story forward. I mean, I haven't found any yet.
I mean, there's like some scenes when you arrive in places. Early in the game, you see like some what could be termed cutscenes.
Like bosses will taunt you or whatever.
They'll talk to you more. There's more talking in this in terms of like bosses like actually having dialogue with you before you fight them. Certainly, it feels like the people, like the big bosses you fight in this, it feels like they take you a little more personally.
Yeah.
Than the other games. They reference you, and they recognize because you are tarnished just like they are. So like, but you're maidenless. Like you don't have an official sponsor. Basically,
that's become like a catchphase across the last 4 days.
So there's some like kind of taunting about that. Whereas like the other games, it was just like you're just another hollow. You're just Technically, in the first game, you play the Chosen Undead, but you don't actually know you're the Chosen Undead till you win the game because tons of other undead have tried to do it, and like everyone was chosen until the one that you played actually succeeded. So like you're not really an important anything, and you're not a luminary in this or anything, but you are part of like this special class. You're just sort of like a low, an impossible underdog.
You run into other people who are doing the same thing you are.
Yeah, there's a bunch of other characters that are like also tarnished or doing their own thing. Like, you slowly sort of build this little like network of people like back at this home base area, and like you're just like it's Dark Souls, just like everything. It's just Dark Souls.
Fire Native just said in chat, and there's jokes like this have been flying for the last 4 days. I have a maiden, but you wouldn't know her. She goes to a different school.
Yeah. Well, then even the maiden you get like admits later that she's not a maiden, but she can be one, like for the purposes of what you're doing, which is like, okay, what the hell is this girl's like deal?
It's just another silly
thing. There's that
usual
usual Dark Souls thing where it's just like everybody's mysterious.
What
could it mean? Everyone's so sad. This is like
I mean, most of the storytelling is done in these, I would argue, poorly done real-time cinematics where the characters just have a flappy jaw. They don't even like create like the facial animation to match the voiceover.
Yeah, the mouths just flap, and whether there's voice happening or not, the presentation has not changed or improved in that regard since 2010. Basically, like it's. There's nothing. I mean, part of that is I'm sure just like having to localize it. You don't want to go through the problem of that. There's a couple of characters, a mysterious number of characters with masks on.
Yeah, because they don't have to animate their doing the facial animation.
And there's things where it's like there's giant creatures you run into that you talk to, and like they don't even make the mouths move on them. They don't even try. Yeah. Like that could And there's one thing that we know, like God of War did stuff like that, where like giant things move their mouth. That's a cool thing.
It's work.
Yeah, it is
that
work.
They decided not to do.
Yeah. 10 out of 10. But
we'll get to that.
Like there was a cutscene. There's a little bit. There's some early on. Then they stop, and I'm sure there's some at the end.
Probably.
Like
80
hours later.
In the middle, there's not much. That's for sure.
No. Like the game is the thing. As soon as you kind of get the setup out of the way.
Yep. And I would argue too that the story is kind of non-existent, and then when it does appear, it's not great. Like there's a one scene where this woman's just like, let me hold you, and I'm just like, what the F?
Yeah, well, there's a story behind why she does that. If you go back to her and talk to her again, which is kind of interesting. Also, I just found this out. So she gives you like some kind of blessing thing, and you can use it to get like a buff or something. But it sits in your. If you don't use that, it sits in your inventory and lowers your health by 5%.
What?
I've been playing with 5% less health for 50 hours because I didn't realize that.
I mean,
so if you get hugged by that woman, use the thing she gives you, or you have less health.
I have not used that.
So yeah, go use that again.
There's so many things in this game that are like that, where it's just like you just don't know.
Yeah, well, that's their thing. You know, this is actually the most communicative they've ever been in a game.
That's what people keep telling me, and I'm like, are you effing kidding me?
Like, this is the first time. This is the first time when they tell you that you can two-hand your weapon. This is the first game they've ever made that tells you why that's a good thing to do, because it ups your damage by 50%.
Yeah.
Lowers your defense, obviously, because you can't block with your shield or whatever. But two-handing a greatsword is sort of a standard, kind of the standard way you play the game if you're kind of going for a vanilla damage playthrough, and you two-hand that thing, and you're going to do some,
and it's worth it because a big deal. The detriment
and
is
it
a
cuts
very
through,
slight increase in loss of stamina. It's not that big of a difference when you block with the two-handed sword.
You get hurt, but but you can do the counter.
It's like chip damage,
and the counter does more damage, and it's
worth it.
It's a trade-off that's worth, especially against it would be relevant with this guy because you're fighting with magic, but he's made of wood, and wood and stone enemies can your hits will bounce off them sometimes unless they're strong hits, and if you two-hand your sword. Your hits will not bounce off them anymore.
I really thought my fire magic would whoop this guy's ass. It did not.
Yeah, he's more of a petrified wooden guy.
I'm like, oh, I got this. I have crazy powerful fire magic. This guy's made out of wood.
Oh, here comes the...
I'm like, I'm going to wipe the mat with this guy. Oh, no. There is no wiping the mat with any enemy in this game. It's just not how it works.
Maybe some of the early stuff if you go back to it way later.
Way early
But even then, you can get killed by rats if you're not careful.
In two shots, yeah. Let's talk about the design of the game. I picked, I believe, the absolute worst class that I could have ever chosen. My pro tip to you is, if you haven't started playing this game yet, do not pick the dude with the toilet seat around his head, around his neck. It was a huge mistake. I've actually thought about going back and just starting the game over with a different class. He is a magic caster.
I'm going to say this for the 40th time. The class you pick at the beginning of a From game doesn't matter.
It does matter.
It doesn't matter. It gives you a
I know eventually you can make your character whatever you want.
The only reason it matters is, especially in this game, is because you starting equipment can give you a help at the beginning of the game. Certainly I use the what you call it, the armor, because I picked I can't remember what the name of the class is. It's the knight class, the one that came with a shield, and I used the chest armor for that class for a long time until I found something better.
Me too. I'm still using the same spear I got when I started the game.
Yeah, most of that stuff is viable for. I'm still using the sword I got from that first camp of soldiers.
Yep.
They drop
the great sword, right?
No, it's a straight sword. It's a long sword. It's like a knight. It's I can't remember, Lord's straight sword or something like that. But I have been upgrading it, obviously, but that's still my main weapon, and my shield is the brass shield they drop in that camp. They've remained good as long as I keep upgrading them, and I'm happy with them. I will probably switch to one of the high-level great swords I got once my strength's up enough to use it, but I need 10 more strength to use that, and for now that's doing me just fine. I've got a little staff that I use for magic if I need it, but I'm mostly a sword and board character right now.
I know eventually you can turn your character to whatever you want, but starting this game with no strength and no vigor, it's hard.
Yeah, well, the starting... I
don't do any damage.
I would definitely not recommend starting as a magic user if this is your first serious run at a Souls game. For all the extra tooltips and stuff, the game does really assume you have working knowledge of this series. And it is the series. If they called this Dark Souls 4, nobody would have batted an eye. This, it's very much the same game, except obviously there's an open world. There's a couple of changes to the combat system. A lot of good stuff they've changed, but it's Dark Souls.
Yeah, I ended up spending my first, not exaggerating, 12 upgrades on vigor. For health.
Yeah, see, that's part of what your problem is, because you shouldn't have done that. you should have learned to dodge. Like the way you're gonna get, because if you're using magic, and I say this as someone who cracked the code in Dark Souls 2 by playing a pure mage, they should never get near you.
That's impossible.
It's not impossible.
You can see how long it takes for when I hit the button for my fire magic to be pulled up and then thrown and go through the animation and wait to be able to move
right.
again.
Well, part of what I'm saying here is that like you're hyper focusing on the fire magic, and you should have been diversifying in it. And what
do you mean by that?
I mean, there's other spells. There's other when you're using incantations here. So there's other incantations you could be using, but also you need to branch out into the blue magic, which is the glintstone stuff that uses the staff.
But here's the thing. This is all so complicated. Like, I'll be honest with you, Matt.
Well, yeah, there's no way you would necessarily know
There's no way to know it. Like, I couldn't even figure out how to use magic at all at first. And it turns out there's this, like, doohickey that you have to have equipped, like, to use magic.
I can't remember the name of it. Seal?
I don't either. Because I don't remember the names of anything in this game.
You need a staff to cast the glintstone stuff. I think it's a seal to cast the
it almost looks like a nutcracker.
Yeah, well, like the seals have different forms. They're just sort of talismans. Like I have one that's just like a claw. There's like staffs all look like staffs, but the seals for the incantations, which were called miracles in the Dark Souls games, those all seem to have different forms. Like there's one that looks like a nutcracker with like a wrench on it. There's one that has like a weird seed look to it. There's one that has it looks like a claw. Yeah. Because I have one of those. I don't have hardly any magic, but like because I've only pumped my magic points so I can summon stuff. But I pumped a couple points into faith so I could cast cure poison because I keep getting poisoned.
Yeah.
Because once they hit you with that.
It's brutal. Poisoning in this game is brutal.
Yeah, it takes a long time to go away,
and it takes a lot of hit points.
Oh, you fought this guy?
Yeah. Tried.
I wouldn't try this guy.
I never beat him,
and I'm like level 78.
I got close a couple times. I got him down to like tough. A couple pixels.
Well, I mean, you're doing much better damage because you're magicking him than like.
But you know how I must beat him was just stabbing him. He gets caught in this weird loop where he'll keep trying to jump in.
Well, there's some guy I saw on Twitter, I think it was, who because every weapon you can add like a special move to them now with the Ashes of War, and he put like this spin move on his sword.
You can see mine up there is called Storm Stomp.
Yeah, and he basically just like spun his sword and just stun locked that guy the whole time, and then like dodged away, got his stamina back, and did it again. And he wasn't even very very leveled up, but he was able to just sort of do enough damage and get through it. But yeah, it's there's a lot of options. But yeah, like what I'm talking about with like you should do this, you should do that with a mat and all that. That's stuff that I know because I've played these games before.
Yeah,
like
I had no clue about any of this. I'm just trying to play the game.
That's kind of the thing is like these games are about learning by doing, and the other thing is like there are tons of informational resources out there. Even day one, people had because of the network test, people had a head start and like already had interactive maps and stuff.
Yeah, man, but you're supposed to create your own journal.
No bullshit. One of the most harmful things that the fan base of these games does, and beyond the get good and people who want to play in easy mode and whose hands don't work right should never get to play this game because it makes me feel good that I can beat the game.
Yeah.
One of the most like horrible things they do is this weird like thing where people try to imply that they beat these games entirely themselves with no help and not looking at it. Bullshit.
That's a lie.
Like there's a point where you can like basically work your way through it because you know the deal, but like learning how all these systems work back when I was playing Dark Souls 2 for the second time and like going back through Dark Souls 1 after I'd figured out how to play these games, like I used every fucking resource I could find, like explanations of how this works and how these stats work. And like, I'm not a min-maxer on these games because I prefer to play how I want to play, but I need to know how these systems function. And the only way to learn that is either through dozens of hours of trial and error and analysis, or just look up all the work people have already done and look up the wiki and figure out like, oh, I need to put strength up to here. If I put it past this level, it doesn't give me enough returns to be worth doing, so I'm only gonna put my strength to 40 because beyond that is stupid. And that's how it goes. You got to learn stuff like that, like certain things like
the game doesn't teach you that stuff.
No,
just playing
you
it.
just have to look at it and kind of intuit it, or know it from previous games and how From makes their stuff. Like once you hit there's you hit certain points where I'm like, okay, I'm pumping points into this stat because I want to up it so I can have enough FP to cast this summon. But then I'll hit a point where when I go to the level up on that, a bunch of my defense goes up. So that means that this overall character level, not the level of that stat, but that overall character level I'm hitting does a big defense buff. And I do want more defense. So sometimes I've gone back down and instead of continuing to put stuff into like the stat I'm working on, I put it in strength because I'm like, you know what, I want to, because that'll boost my defense too. Yeah. And I want to boost all my defense at once just because like I feel like I'm getting hit too much. So like I'll do that sometimes and not focus on what I'm supposed to be focusing on.
I think it's a big disadvantage to starting with a mage, is that your strength and your vigor are so low that your attack and your defense is just pathetic for the first like 10 hours of the game.
You're not supposed to be using those. You're supposed to be using the magic. You should be pumping.
You can see it's all I use pretty much.
Right, but you're not. You're missing the point. You should not be putting anything into hit points because if you should just accept if you're a glass cannon, if they get past you, your defenses, not your defenses, your offenses really. Your magic is your offense. If they get past that and hit you, you're dead. Like that's it. I mean, that's the nature of it.
But there's no way for me to know that while I'm playing the game.
You find it out pretty quick, I would say.
But you're right. Like after I started watching some people playing it on YouTube, like I noticed that no matter what their build is, you die in 2 hits. That's just unless you use a potion. Like everybody dies in 2 hits in this game. And I've even gone, you can see the lower third says,
I die in a lot more than 2 hits now.
Do you? I have never made it past that.
I'm a very tanky build now. I got like almost 40 strength, ton of endurance, ton of vigor. I can I have good armor now. I can take a good hit. Resistances are buffed. Like I'm pretty, I can go back to like enemies that used to kill me in 2 or 3 hits, and I can take probably 7 now.
Oh wow! I have not got anywhere near that.
Which
point.
Still, if you get, it means if 2 or 3 of them get around me and I get hit, I'm gonna die. But
sure.
you got to crowd control. With other thing I'm saying about like the blue magic is the blue magic has better crowd control options.
It's also way faster. That's the problem with this class in particular. The magic takes forever to use.
It's not a class thing. Like class just means you start with these stats.
Right. He starts with fire magic, and the first fire magic he starts with is just like this close, almost like a melee attack.
Yeah, the fire grab
which
thing.
Is like
which is not, that's a terrible spell.
And so I went and bought, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to get fire projectiles. And it's like, you can see the damage that it does.
No, it's good damage.
But it takes forever to fire off a spell.
Yeah, high damage usually means longer windup. Yeah. That's true of melee, too.
I mean, what I've really discovered playing this game is that a lot of this game is figuring out if you can do stuff before you run out of time to do it. At least for my class. It's like learning this mental clock of, okay, this is how long it takes for me to fire off one of my fireballs. This is how long I'm going to spend jabbing with my spear before I can pull it back and I'm ready to block or whatever. That to me is a big part of this game, is managing time. For me it is anyway. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the open world. People have been calling it like the greatest open world ever. How do you feel about that?
I feel like someone who says that has not played many open world games.
I would agree with that.
There's nothing particularly revolutionary or special about the open world in this. It's got I've been in the same kind of mine at least 4 times with different colors, picking up stones and killing the same enemies over and over. Mm-hmm. It's just that I think a lot of people who complain about open worlds don't play open world games because they don't like them. So it's like a Breath of the Wild thing. You come to this thing and you're like, oh my god, there's like the first night. One guy I know online was like, oh my god, this game is amazing. I touched this thing and this ghost appeared and led me to this treasure chest guarded by a giant bear. And I'm like, I can't count how many times that exact thing, maybe not with a bear, but exact thing has happened to me in open. I mean, that's a basic mechanic in Ghost of Tsushima, and you can pet the fox afterward. So there's a lot of like part of it is execution, I guess. Like because early on, to be honest, early on I didn't like this game at all.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was empty and boring, and like the first place they direct you to go to, the castle, like you fight your way through, and it's just Dark Souls. Like you can't summon your horse because in like areas like that, like you can't bring your horse in because you only gonna do that in the open areas. Like you're fighting through brick hallways against like soldiers that can gang up on you all the time, and I'm just like, I've done this 4 times already. Like I stopped playing Horizon for this.
Right.
You get to a couple, the first major fight, Marg whatever. He's real hard because early on, you're early on. It's early
Grit or something.
Mac Grit, that guy. The guy who's trying to stop you.
I hate him.
You can actually get around him.
I hate him.
There's actually a way around him if you want, but I didn't find it at the time. It took me a long time because he can close distance like that.
And you're weak.
You're still pretty weak.
Game.
So basically I memorized all his stuff and I summoned my wolves and I eventually beat him. And then I moved on through the castle, got to the first, shard master, shard keeper, ball, whatever the hell, Lord of Cinder. Yeah. It's all the same thing. I fought him, and I'm just it was just one of those things where I played enough of these games. I'm like, okay, I can't beat this guy.
Yeah.
Or not right now. So the one advantage that Elden Ring has, and I think that when people say it's the most accessible one, this is probably what they mean. Is I turned around and left. And just went out into the world and was I'm going to see what's out here, I guess. And eventually I found, it's real mean that they put that guy right in your way when you first get into the world.
A lot of casual players
have
quit because of him.
Yeah. There's also, I love going through there and it's just blood stains everywhere. It's just
where everyone's died.
Everyone's died. So I just fucked off into the world and I didn't intend, but I found this cave. I'm like, okay, this cave is more manageable. I get through here. Okay, I found a cool summon. And eventually I learned okay, the interesting stuff in the world is not really on top of the world. You have to find holes and caves and buildings with stairs and elevators and things. So they're all in there, and it's interesting. It is interesting, sort of the way Arkham City did it, where it doesn't look like anything's necessarily there, but if you find the way in, it's there's a whole dungeon here. There's a whole little mini Dark Souls here, and the one downside is that I think a lot of times I didn't feel the reward was proportionate to the effort it took to get to it.
I agree with that a million times. In general, with this game, I never feel like the rewards are worth it.
And I've seen a couple of them have been real good, but I'm still using that sword. I'm just I've gotten so many weapons, and I'm just not better than what I got, even if I upgrade it.
I'm still using the same spear I started the game with. I've only had one new armor set in the whole time.
I just upgraded my armor to something better
because I was able sense to actually
because I was finally able to pump my endurance up to get to not have a heavy load when I had the new armor up. So I'm sporting some pretty nice plate armor at this point. And I've seen people try to pass that off as well, if everything's great, then you won't know how real great things are. So some stuff has to be unrewarding or have nothing at the end of it. I'm like, go fuck yourself. Come on.
It feels to me like the open world has either been created intentionally with less is more, or just that's all From Software could manage less is more. Because you take over encampments, you get nothing. You'll literally get some little doodad or whatever. You fight through 10 dudes, take over a camp, and it doesn't accomplish really anything.
No, because they come back later. But I mean, then you find some. Most of the real rewards are underground, and I will also
in dungeons.
In dungeons, and I will say this: this game's bigger than you think it is.
Oh, it's gigantic.
There's other stuff here.
Yeah.
Don't be fooled when you look at that map the first time.
Yeah. Oh, it's gigantic. There's no doubt about it.
And whole other sections that you don't know about, which is cool. And there's and slowly discovering that is cool. There's some really nice location. As always, the art direction is pristine.
The art in this game saves. We'll talk about the visuals later, but the art in this game, in a lot of ways, saves this game.
Yeah, and So I've come around on the open world. There is a lot of stuff to find, and
I don't hate it,
but it is the same things I've been doing for years. And there is, obviously, I say it all the time: execution's more important than innovation. Yeah. And the execution on this is pretty good. But in order to think it's the revolution of all time that people keep saying it is, especially in the reviews, I can't help but think you just haven't played a lot of open world games.
I don't see it. I just don't.
I mean, partly it's just
because... It's fine.
Partly it's because it's just... It does feel pretty intentional most of the time and fairly handcrafted, but also there's a lot of repetition. There is an element of okay, I know what I'm going to find in general at a church. I know what I'm going to find in a mine.
The tears.
And stuff like that. But also, there's a lot of those.
Yeah.
And
and they're important, too.
And they're important.
You should seek out churches, by the way.
But but I'm more saying that there is a limited number of types of sites you find, and they tend to just be the same thing over and over again. And that's fine because the star of the show is the combat and like kind of getting through the challenge of that. So it's not like I don't like doing that, and it's fun. Like I said, I've been through like 4 or 5 mines. That the only difference was the color of the walls, but like and the HP of the enemies. But but on the same time, I don't mind it so much because like what I'm being rewarded with in those mines are actually useful because they're blacksmithing upgrade items. So that's a good. I'll repeat myself for the sake of having stronger weapons. But it's just like it's a well executed open world, and I love the fact that it's so big and expansive that like if I don't feel like I can handle the current mandatory story thing, I can disappear into that world. I disappeared into that world for like 10 hours, and I was like level 40 by the time I went back to try that boss again. And I'll tell you, I had found every sacred tier I could find. I had upgraded my flasks. I'd upgraded my number of flasks. I had gotten better summons. I pumped everything up as best I could. I was doing really well. I was like, I'm just mowing through everything I find in the open world. I gotta be ready to go back. And I went back to fight that guy, and I did win. But I was out of flasks, and I had 3 HP left, and I beat him with one last desperation swing because I knew one more hit would kill him, and I didn't know if I'd survive whatever the next thing he threw at me. Yeah. So
I agree with that 1,000%. Like you can see, the lower third, prepare to farm. Mm-hmm. I have spent probably 80% of my time playing this game farming, fighting the same enemies over and over and over again. And just like you, I will get to a boss, I'll fight him a handful of times, and like you, I'll say, oh, there's no way in hell I'm beating this guy. I'm way too weak. So I'm like, okay, the advantage of this game is that you can then go farm. You don't have to just keep beating your head against the wall. So I do that, and after a while, you start to learn, like, okay, where's an area where there's plenty of enemies that give me a good amount of runes, and they're not like crazy hard to kill.
Yeah, you either want that or you want like one big guy who's near a grace spot.
Like that giant at the beginning of that village. I go back all the time and just sit at that site of grace and just kill him. Go to the site of grace. He respawns, kill him.
You see that in almost every beginner guide to this game. Go farm that giant.
Yeah. But it's not... to me, it's not fun. I got really sick of fighting... Again, 80% of my playtime, I'm farming on these enemies.
I definitely,
then like you, I go back and I still get my ass kicked. Like that first guy, Magritte or whatever, I fought him twice, and I was like, oh, I have no chance. I went and farmed for like, I'm not exaggerating, 6 hours, and came back. He wiped the mat with me again. I didn't finally beat him until I had the wolf summon. That's what finally got me over the top to be able to beat him. And
because you should have the wolf summon when you get to him.
Yeah, I did not. Because again, the game doesn't like.
Because you have to go back to the church, and that girl pops up and gives you this stuff.
And it like didn't.
If you don't know that, there's no reason to go back to the church.
I was lucky to even stumble onto her.
I stumbled onto that because I wanted to go back and upgrade my sword at that workbench.
I
was like, oh, there's a witch here.
Maybe I could have done it earlier. I don't know. I just stumbled onto her, and I'm like, holy crap, where'd this girl come from? And then she gives me the ability to summon.
That, I think, is triggered after you get the ability to level up.
Oh, really?
I think that's the first
thing.
But
you got to go visit that place where she's hanging out there. Is it a church there that she's at?
It's the first church, yeah. But, most people are going to end up back there because they want to upgrade their weapon.
Yeah.
And that's how I saw her.
I don't even remember how
if you don't do that, you will still get that stuff later and be able to buy the summon bell later. Like, there's a way around that. But most people, I think, are going to accidentally run into her.
But I think probably all told, I probably farmed 8 or 9 hours total to go back and beat him.
Yeah, I haven't really farmed much. I've mostly, there's a section that I won't get into that's way up in the northeast that I found these enemies that like they're not easy. You saw them yesterday. They can one-shot me still. But I can sneak up on them and generally kill them before they can touch me, and they all give like over 1,000 each. So I've done a couple levels when I just need to get my like FP up to a certain point to like summon something or whatever. I'm just gonna kill these guys over and over again until I can do that. But generally, I've leveled up pretty naturally just by wandering around the world.
Well, I think to your point, you're talking about earlier how I should not have been putting my points in vigor. I had no idea. I'm just like, okay, he's wiping me out in sometimes one hit.
Yeah. Well, here, so like, is this you?
No, this is me. This is from the network test.
Oh, okay.
So this is old footage.
Okay. Because I was going to say, you have a gigantic health bar for a mage.
Yeah, this is from the network test.
Okay.
The beta or whatever. So I've spent a ton of time farming.
So did this started you as with those stats or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, because you got a lot of magic.
Yeah. This is how you started whenever
I didn't play the network test, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, you start substantially weaker than that, no matter who you pick.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
In the main game.
It was smart for the network test.
Oh, yeah. You don't want people to, like, have to do all that.
But I would farm, and I'd go back, and I did not feel any more powerful or any more durable. I ultimately was like, you know what? I just have to memorize this enemy and not get hit once. That's how I feel like playing as a mage.
I mean, even
to make
people
progress, you just can't get hit.
That's exactly what I said. If you're a mage, you cannot get hit. Basically, you got to be perfect. You got to be perfect at dodge rolling. And that's what I had to do in Dark Souls 2. And the learning that skill has been essential for every other game of this type I've ever played. And I'm glad I learned through that. And then I had to come to the shield blocking stuff later when I went back. When actually playing Dark Souls 3 is how I learned to do the shield stuff more. Because when I went back and played Dark Souls 1, I did the two-hand sword roll and get away from stuff and be agile thing. And for Dark Souls 3, I'm like, I'm going to learn how to use a sword and parry and do all that stuff. And that was real hard. And I'll tell you, the dodge rolling, I'm still way better at that. And the one thing that always messes me up is Bloodborne, and this one has really started leaning into enemies that stagger their time of their hits. You get hit, and then that kind of rear back thing, and you're like, when is he going to do it? When is he going to do it? When is he going to do it? Oh, I did it wrong. Wrong.
It was like the Magritte guy.
Yeah, he does that a lot.
All his attacks, I learned how to dodge them immediately. Yeah. He has one attack where he dives in, and I can always dodge that first attack, and then it's just muscle memory for me to dodge again. And when you dodge that second time, he pauses and then hits you. And it took me forever to basically reprogram my brain to not roll that second time.
And as I said before, welcome to fighting games. That's what that is. That's a mix-up, basically.
This to me is a boss rush game that plays like a fighting game.
There is some of that to it, yeah. I definitely use a lot of fighting game disciplines in
as far as timing and pattern memorization and all that.
I'm applying very similar mentality to it a lot of the time.
So back to the open world, it's there, and it has in fact guaranteed that I have played this game way more than any other From Software.
Because there's something to do.
Because there's something that I can do where I'm just not beating my head against the wall. But the more I've done it, the more frivolous it seems and the less fun it becomes because I'm just doing the same thing. I'm going to the same spot, killing the same enemies.
Yeah, here's the thing. I would have agreed with that in the first 6 hours. I do not agree with that anymore, having seen much more of the world. The world gets more diverse. It gets more interesting. You find stuff that you're like, what the hell is that? You find stuff that's worth it. You find upgrades that are good. And it takes a while. I think it was around hour 15 where I'm like, okay, yeah, I do like the open world.
That's about right where I am right now. Well, I've probably played a little more than that actually, but
it was a slow burn for me. This was the game post my Dark Souls 2 revelation and realizing how you're supposed to play this stuff and kind of that switch flipping. This is the From game that I've had the hardest time getting into early on. It felt so by rote and so much review early on, and eventually I figured it. And also I think early on this is the hardest one. And even real hardcore veterans admit that those first two bosses are no joke.
It's weird that they put them so early in the game.
Well, I think so. I don't have any evidence of that. I don't think they've talked about this in interviews yet, but I think that they are hard in that first castle. I think those bosses are hard in part to try to get you to go out into the world. I think they want you to go, because look, I fell into the trap as a Dark Souls veteran. I'm like, okay, they told me to go to the castle. The gold things are pointing this way. I'm going to go here. And I'm like, okay, castle. This is Dark Souls. There's elevators and hallways. And this is Dark Souls. Cool. And I just grinded my way through that. Every enemy was a life or death fight. And I get to this boss, and
I was very happy to reach that site of grace inside the castle.
It's always great to find a site of grace for sure. Yeah. And then they are much better at checkpointing in this game. The checkpoints or they're
very generous.
They're very generous with that.
If you have the sites of grace and you have those, what are they called?
The statue of Murka.
Murka, yeah, that's
Murka. I think that,
which don't always work the way they're supposed to.
Yeah,
either.
I mean, you spawn right. Basically, it's a way to not have to do the boss run back all the time,
right?
Which is good. That works. Also, America is her name. I have a sneaking suspicion that this game is entirely a metaphor for America.
Oh, really?
Because there's a lot, just like the gold ring breaking, and I think that again, like the goddess is named America. Like,
right.
there's something there. I'm waiting for the lore masters to sort of do their analysis, because I think there's some interesting stuff in here. But I do not have the attention span to find it. I've been listening to some, like, you know, kind of summaries of Dark Souls stories and lore and stuff while I've been open worlding, like, you know, until I have to talk to someone. I basically just, like, you know, play with the sound low and listen to like a podcast about Dark Souls or whatever, just to like review. And I gotta say, like, all the talk about this lord and that king and his kingdoms, like, there's a bunch of times I just turn to the computer and I just go, who fucking cares? Like, I don't understand why people give a shit. Like, I get that all this stuff is in there to find, but I'm like, who cares? Like, it's such. And one of the I think it's Vati Vidya is one of the YouTubers, and he does great video. Like, his production value is great. He's actually got a really soothing voice. Like, he's one of the best ones, and he has some really good beginner stuff for Elden Ring. If you go and watch that, like, they're great early guides. His network test videos were great. He dug into everything and tried it all these different ways. He's very thorough and very great, and his lore videos are really good. But he's got, like, some of his, like, little lore deep dives are called, instead of Prepare to Die, which was the tagline for Dark Souls,
as prepare to farm.
Thus. It was prepare to cry, because everything's so tragic, and I'm just like, this is melodramatic garbage. Like, it's just cartoon shit.
Well, as Marcus Beer would say, wank. It's a bunch of wank.
It is. And that's why I say, like, you know, not that George R. R. Martin is immune to wank, but none of this has his nuance to it. Yeah, it's just it's fine. But it's just the same thing again. It kept making me think about Destiny, where, like, Destiny kind of felt like Halo with, like, the names changed for everything's got a weird proper noun. You know, and it's like the tower, the darkness, the guardians, the shadow. You know, it's like okay, everything's like. Everything's capitalized, so you know it's important. Like, there's a lot of that in this, where it's just like, okay, and it's not soul. I still call them souls, not shards. You know, it's like,
it doesn't matter.
They're not bonfires. They're states. There's sites of grace. They're like, it's just like, okay.
There's a lot of replacing going on here, for sure.
So I don't really understand the angle of that as being such a draw, because I feel like it feels like review, and that was one of the things that was hard early on. But there's little things that, like, these guys are cool. Like, they drag that cart, like, halfway across the damn continent. Like, it's like
you see them later, like, way across the map.
And that's a fun thing where, like, early on when I'd see those guys, I'm just like, nope. Like, and like a couple days ago, I got there. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna kill you fuckers, because I can do it now.
Well, there's a whole caravan with them too. There's other guys. I haven't fought that caravan.
This guy's awesome. Kind of dangerous, but
let's talk about the gameplay. One thing that I finally discovered after I've tried almost every From Software game, I think I did not try Dark Souls 3. I think that's the only one I didn't even, like, put a little bit of time into. And somehow I have never discovered this in all my time, and I finally figured out why these games have frustrated me so much. And it's because you cannot cancel animations. So all these years I've been playing these games, and I'm like, I freaking blocked. Why won't it block? It's because I had attacked, and it won't cancel the attack to block. And once I realized that, that's when I started turning the corner with this game. But I've played so many hack and slash games where you parry or you dodge, and then you dive in, and you unload as much as you can, and then you get out before you get hit. And you cannot adopt that mindset and play these games. You'll get whooped.
I mean, you do move in and unload as best you can, but, like, the amount of you can unload,
very measured.
Yeah, the amount you can unload has to be very intentional. And you have to learn. And you have to learn how much you can do to each enemy. Like, that first boss, you can get, like, one hit in safely. Like, you can get two, but you're gonna get tagged a couple of times if you do that. Also, the summons are key. The summons can pull aggro off you.
That makes a huge difference.
Yeah, early on.
If anything, it just at least
one of my first
them.
main like things was going around finding better summons, and I did in fact find a Warhawk summon that has saved my ass more times than I can count. It's not very strong. It doesn't have but it will hover there and blow wind and fire at the enemies. And like a lot of the bosses do not know how to deal with an aerial opponent, and they just keep focusing on it, and I just keep poking them in the back of the knee,
poking him
and
in the toe.
You'll get there eventually.
But anyway, once I had that revelation, the combat started making more sense. At least then I knew what I needed to do as far as like the timing of it and how it's supposed to work.
Yeah, when people say that the combat in these games is very intentional, like that's what they're talking about.
Yeah, I finally figured that out.
You got to commit. I never said that to you because I thought it was obvious.
No. I've played so many hack and slash games throughout the years. It's muscle memory for me. It's like, okay, I parried. I'm in. Brrr, hit the button as fast as I can.
I mean, I guess
unload as much as I can, and then, oh my gosh, they're about to attack. Get out. And most games will let you cancel that attack animation so you do get out in time. This game does not.
No.
If you've hit that attack button, you're going to go through that painfully long animation, and you're just a sitting duck. And it took, once I learned that, it helped a lot with me in this.
You cannot overcommit in this game.
And then I do have one major complaint.
Although Bloodborne is easier about that. Bloodborne, you can cheat in to like the bullet counter a lot easier than you can with like.
I do remember that. You actually did tell me that back when I was playing Bloodborne.
Mm-hmm.
You helped me with that. There is one thing about the gameplay that drives me bonkers, and maybe someone in chat will know what the remedy to this is. So, as you can see, I'm playing the mage, and so I need to not only replenish my health, I also need to replenish my magic points. Mm-hmm. And to replenish your magic points, you have to hit down on the D-pad to select, to change it from health or magic. Taking my thumb off of the left analog stick, even for the split second that it takes to tap down on the D-pad, will kill me. I have not found... So what I've been doing is taking my right hand completely off the controller, going across my hand, and tapping down on the D-pad with my right hand, which is just weird. And so I started looking through the game for a way to remedy it, and one thing I could do is I could put it to triangle, which is a modifier, but I still have to hit triangle and still hit the D-pad. And then there's no way I could do it. I'd have to take my left hand off. I cannot figure out a way to make it work. I don't know if anyone in chat has figured this out at this point.
I just take my thumb off the stick and hit the button. Like, I don't use that too much in combat in this because I don't use magic really, so I don't actually have any charges on the
but I'd have to.
But also I've played tons of these games before, and I've switched constantly in those games, and I don't know what to tell you. Like, I get distance and I switch if I have to, and then if you've got too many things in your inventory, holding on this one at least, holding down automatically takes you back to your first equipped item, so it'll put you back to your health flask.
Okay.
Which is only, I mean, that doesn't help you too much if you only got the 2 things equipped. But for me, like, I have tons of summons on that. So like if I'll switch to the summon I want before I fight a boss, go in, summon, hold the D-pad down to switch back to the health thing automatically because that's the first thing equipped. And then I don't really need to worry about it unless I need to like bring in like another summon in the middle of like a field or something. You know, like usually the bosses are pretty regiment. You know when you're getting into it.
Yeah. What I've been doing is I've just been turning off the lock on and running away to get enough distance.
Actually, I just thought of this actually because this, again, fighting game buffering stuff. A lot of times, if I know I'm gonna need to like replenish mana or whatever, or in the other games I would do this, I will switch items with the D-pad while I'm casting a spell. Because if I'm casting a spell, I think I'm safe. I think I am safe to do the wind up for the spell, and while I'm doing that, I'll switch over real quick and hit the pad.
I feel like in this game for me,
because
I'm always a millimeter away of trying to keep distance away. Like I don't know if my character is slow of foot, but it's literally like frames of whether I'm far enough away or not. Again,
no, that's accurate.
The fire spell takes so long that I'm using to fire off, like accounting for that. By the time you fire off that spell, they're going to be right there. And if you're out of magic, it's like, again, I will unlock from the enemy and just sprint away, get 20 or 30 yards, then switch to the magic, then take the magic potion, then switch back to the health potion, then re-engage. It just seems like there should be a more elegant way to do it.
Well, the more elegant way is to just use magic as a basically companion piece until you can be high enough level to make it your main focus.
There's just so much in this game that it's so funny that Jason Schreier was like, I'm so glad they have less information in this game. No, this game needs a lot more information. Like, It's crazy, the stuff that I couldn't figure out how to do. Like I said, it took me a while to figure out how to even cast magic. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't see what the harm is in explaining how things work.
I think there is a thing that explains how you do the magic thing. I don't remember for sure because I wasn't paying attention because I already know how to do it.
Or you already knew how. Well, in this game, is it different? Like you don't.
No,
have to...
it's completely the same.
Oh,
it's identical to the other games.
Right. As far as like having to have that weird item equipped. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, usually they would have been for miracles in the previous games, and to be honest, a lot of people didn't use miracles in general were not introduced until later in a lot of the games. Like the fact that you start with incantations and run into the blue magic, the glintstone magic later is unusual. Because I think the glintstone magic is more useful in terms of sort of just battlefield magic.
It appears you can fire way more quickly than you can.
You fire more quickly, and a lot of the basic glintstone pebble spell takes a sliver of FP. Like you can and it doesn't do the big damage that fireball does that you're throwing, but you can go
you can chip with it.
Yeah, you can chip it. And also the glintstone arc is crowd control. Like it shoots this big arc of magic, and like you can hit 5 people with it if they're coming at you. Like especially early on, you got the soldiers that run at you and stuff.
Yep.
They bunch together. You can hit them, and like that actually is a pretty good damage spell. Like, or even early on, you could probably kill them with like 3 of those.
Well, maybe I need to just completely switch. Can you respec in this game?
I saw someone talk about respecking, but I don't know how to do it.
I would really, really like it if I could.
That would be unusual.
Because I went, according to you, and you're probably right, I went way down the wrong path with my points in this game.
What you can just do is start putting points in something else.
I have been, but it's.
But what?
I feel like it's too late now.
There's no such thing as too late.
Strength. I've been focusing on lately.
Yeah, good. But you're gonna have to switch to a weapon for that.
I know, and I don't even have like I have a shield, but I don't use it.
Go to that soldier camp and kill them until they drop a brass shield.
But that's another thing that's confusing to me. Like the way the game taught me, it felt like I had to have my left hand free to use it for magic.
I don't know where that came from. That because you can put the thing in whichever hand you want.
But don't you have to have a hand free to cast magic?
No.
So you can have a shield in your left hand and still cast magic with the left hand?
With your right hand.
Then you don't have the spear.
Yeah, you have to switch from the spear.
To the shield?
No, to the casting thing.
No, I'm asking you, how do you have a shield and cast magic at the same time?
You hold the magic item in your right hand.
And you lose the weapon.
And I lose the... Yeah. Because the weapon... You can equip multiple things.
You can only equip 2 things at a time.
No, you can equip 3 things at a time. If you go to the inventory equip screen, there's 3 weapon slots and 3 shield slots. Those are left and right hand. So if you want to have your spear and, like, say, your weapon, your magic casting seal. So on mine, I have my sword, I have a magic staff, and I have a magic seal, which lets me cast those incantations like the fire thing. And then I just have my shield, because I don't use anything else in my left hand. When I want to cast magic, I hit right on the D-pad, and that switches between my 3 equipped weapons.
But you still only have 2 things equipped at a time.
At a single time,
You're just switching what's in your hand.
Yeah, I'm swapping what's in my right hand, but I always keep my shield out.
Gotcha.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Unless I'm two-handing something, I always keep the shield out.
It's just weird that we have to have this conversation about how to play a video game. Like, it just seems absurd. Like, the game should teach me this stuff, and, like, I just feel like if it wasn't for the internet, I would have no chance playing this game.
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for the internet, I wouldn't know half this stuff.
It's crazy.
I just found out about it when I was playing. I mean, I didn't. And look, like, I didn't know any of this stuff playing Dark Souls 2 to review it for Rev 3.
Because probably it wasn't even out there yet.
No, it wasn't out. It didn't exist yet.
Yeah.
The summoning didn't even work. The network stuff didn't work. And, like, playing this, I played this like a week early because we had the press code. And, like, no one. I mean, people were playing it obviously, but I couldn't summon anyone.
Well, they're not sharing information online yet because it's all embargoed as well. So there's nothing out there to help.
Well, like you can't even. There aren't even people in the game. Like there's no
the
messages being left. The network stuff wasn't working right. And man, you don't realize how important those messages people leave are. Like just
they saved my ass so
both
many
in
times.
terms of strategy and knowing what's coming up, and just in terms of sort of the atmosphere of the game, where like. Watching people argue with each other over those notes because somebody said there's a hidden door and there's no hidden door, so everybody's put like liar ahead on the thing.
Well, they're like pranks, basically.
Yeah, everybody calling
there's a lot of pranks.
Yeah, everybody calling the turtles dogs. Like there's a personality that's left there, but there's also like things that are actually like don't jump here. Like there's actually watch for the left, and like something jumps at you from the left. Like I like that. I think that's a cool.
I agree.
Element.
I've liked that part of this series all along. It's very functional. It's a very creative way to handle network play. I like it a lot, undoubtedly. So let's talk. We've already spoken about this game for an hour. I feel like I could talk about it for another hour because there's so much in it that you have to discover by talking with other people about the game,
or trial and error,
or just beat your head against.
Certainly, I wouldn't consider that beating my head against the wall. I'd consider it learning. Learning how the counter system works. Like the one thing I do definitely that sucks.
This is From Software playing.
Yeah. The one thing that didn't that I thought that the tutorial did not emphasize well enough was the counter hit, where when you block something you hit R2 and you automatically do a counter hit. Like that is so integral to the combat system,
and it's so easy too.
It's way easier
really
than parrying.
Easy to do.
Yeah, and it does big posture because there's one of the things that the game doesn't really explain, lets you kind of figure out on your own. Which is just true of like a lot of stuff, but one of the things they borrowed a little bit from Sekiro, and this has been true in other Souls games as well, but like everybody's got a posture bar basically,
and it's
invisible.
Bar.
It's not on screen like it is in Sekiro, but like you hit someone enough with like an R2 attack, and they're gonna get stunned. And when they're stunned, you can walk up to them and hit the R1 like you would for a backstab, and just stab them with a critical in the front, and that's huge. Makes you invincible briefly.
Aren't there like glowing areas that you're supposed to target?
The big guys who fall down because they're so big, they usually the part you have to stab for a critical is glowing orange.
And usually the eyeball.
You saw that early on, eyeball or the chest or the top of the head. Like you saw earlier in that footage from Software footage where he's fighting the dragon. When the dragon went down, the eye glowed orange because that's where you had to do the critical. So the trick is like the R2 stuff, like and then the posture bar will recover over time, and so you got to keep the pressure up. So that's sort of the balance of like trying to dodge and trying to stay out of their way, but also trying to hit them as much as you can. The other thing that you learn is like the jumping in this. The jumping has iframes, has invincibility frames. So just like the roll, but the trick is you can't attack out of a roll. But you can attack with your landing from a jump. So if you can learn to jump instead of dodge roll, you can come down with an R1 attack, and that R1 attack has enhanced posture damage. A couple of those will knock somebody down, even a boss sometimes. Yeah. So learning how that worked was like a big revelation to me. And then the counter hit does big posture damage. So a couple of those will take somebody, even enemies that I have a hard time fighting, like just toe to toe. If I can get like a single counter swipe in, I know that one more light R1 hit from my weapon will stun them, and I can crit them and they will be dead. And like as opposed to a fight that would take 10 hits. And so stuff like that is really key. And some of that I can save you in a group too. One thing I will say about this that I really like is you can fight large groups of enemies in this successfully in a way you just never could in the other games. Like I've held off groups of like 10, 12 soldiers before.
Wow.
And
that's crazy.
And won. And like that was simply not an option in the other games.
It doesn't feel like it's an option to me in this game.
Maybe
I don't know
not,
how you
but
did it. I'd like to see it.
I mean, part of it's because it happens in the open areas,
where there's room
where you can kind of get around and sort of maneuver.
That's how you die in this game.
If it happens,
caught on stuff.
if it happens in a hallway or so, I actually think the camera in this is worse than it has been in tight spaces in a lot of Souls games. Like usually I'm controlling it myself, but like there have been times I just felt like completely blindsided by things I thought should have been, kind of going around the corner the right way, and it just didn't. And again, like I always say, dying in this game doesn't matter. Like you lose some souls or whatever. I lost like 13,000 souls because I did something stupid at one point last night. Was it last night or the night before?
You may not lose many souls, but you may lose your mind.
It was Friday. It was when you brought all the stuff over. And right after you left, I was trying to get through the section with an elevator. It was actually the section I told you about with that witch lady. And I was going up, and I fought my way all the way up, and she beat me, and I dropped like 13,000 souls. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go back.
That's
and get
a lot.
So I respawned. Not anymore because it takes
not to you anymore.
Yeah, now
to
it takes
right
40,000 for me to level up, and it's just like whatever. But like I like resurrected at the state of grace, at the site of grace. And I go, do the run back. I'm going right up. Yep. And I forgot that the elevator was up because there's an elevator right there. And it was still up, and I just walked into the bottomless pit and died.
Oh, no, and you lost them all.
And I just like, well, we're done with this for an hour or so. Like it was
time to take a break. Yeah.
I mean, I guarantee you my neighbor has heard some very loud fuck yous in the middle of the night because of some stuff that's happened. I'm not saying I don't get mad at this game.
I honestly haven't gotten really mad at it. I laugh. I'm just, because some of it to me is just absurd. Like,
well, some of it to me, like part of the anger to me is like I know I can do what I was trying to do, and I just screwed it up or something weird happened.
I've kind of gotten over the hump of getting angry at these games. I just kind of laugh at some of the absurd stuff that they do. I'm like, really? Like, you really thought this was a good idea to just have this steamroller that just rolled through the dungeon out of nowhere? And, like, I don't know.
It's a classic.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cheap, but it doesn't make me
You can
angry
trick it,
anymore.
though.
Yeah.
Like, there's ways to trick it that I figured. I figured that out last night.
If you go online and search for it, you'll find it.
I didn't. I
you
figured
did find
it
it on your own. I get that, but most of this stuff, it's like you'd never know unless you went online or watched a YouTube video.
Somewhat, but some of that stuff you stumble onto organically, and it's great.
Yeah, some of it. Okay, we got to wrap this up. Visually, what do you think?
It barely looks better than the other games, really.
Yeah, I'm disappointed in the graphics in this game. I'm playing on PS5, and the LOD draw-in, pop-in is awful. It's like if I ride the horse 50, 60 yards ahead of me, everything is drawing in. Sometimes when I come back from a site of grace, I watch the whole world just piece itself together and form in front of me.
That's bad. And I know the Xbox One has a lot of trouble with that, and the frame rate on both the console ones are bad in comparison. Like, it is ridiculous that this... I mean, it's not like this game looks bad. The art direction
The art's
is great.
amazing.
It's pretty sharp. You know, I'm playing on PC.
Yeah.
It's pretty sharp, but it's ridiculous to me that doesn't run at 60. Like, Horizon Forbidden West looks like a photo half the time, and it's at 60 on performance mode. This thing can't reliably hit 45 on the same machine. Ridiculous.
I agree.
Ridiculous.
So I've been a little disappointed in the
From's
visuals.
technical stuff has always been terrible.
Yeah.
Like, they're great at hitboxes, and that's about it.
And their art is amazing.
The art's great, but like, so I'm playing this on PC. I'm playing on my 7-year-old now in May.
You have a GTX 1080 in there?
I have 2 Titan X's.
Oh, 2 Titans. Okay.
And it runs fine. It doesn't have HDR, obviously.
Yeah.
But it runs pretty well. It runs at a pretty solid 60 with everything on high, or whatever, ultra, whatever the max settings are. And it does, there is the problem where it hitches a little bit when it loads new areas or new enemies in, but that's very minor. For them, I would say 95% of the game has been butter smooth for me. And this is an ancient PC. I know people are having stuttering issues on things. I have not had that beyond very minor things. I had my first hard crash last night after 50-something hours.
I have not had any crashes.
For me, the PC version has been really pretty darn good.
Yeah. I haven't had any crashes. It's just weird graphical anomalies. Frame rate hasn't been terrible for me on PS5.
I don't have any of the pop-in stuff that you have.
It hitches every once in a while.
Yeah, but I haven't had any of the drawing stuff. I mean,
not even LOD?
Not really,
like the grass and stuff?
No, not more than you'd notice in any other game, really.
Interesting. Okay. It's really bad on PS5.
I'm sure it is. Like, I've read about it. I did buy it on Xbox, but I just haven't played it.
Have you not played it at all?
I have not played it.
Okay.
Because at a certain point, I realized I was so far in the PC version that I didn't want to start over and just sort of... I'll get to the Xbox version later. And, of course, the Xbox version couldn't go online for the first couple of days.
Right. Is it fixed now?
I don't know. I don't think it is.
I think all weekend it was down.
Yeah, well, because it turned out it was like a version mismatch to the servers, and the only way to update the version was for it to connect to the server, but it couldn't connect to the server because the version was wrong, so they have to patch it. And and Bandai Namco did not have an estimate of when that patch would happen. Maybe it happened already. I don't know.
Gotcha. Okay, let's sum it up. Let's start talking about who this game is for.
Chat says Xbox is fixed, so...
It is fixed. Okay, that's good news. Let's start talking about who this game is for. Now, we're actually a great tandem to talk about From's games, because I'm kind of on one side of the spectrum and you're kind of on the other. You're a fan of the games, you like them, you enjoy them. I have struggled to really get into them. I think between the two of us, we're like the Wonder Twins on these games. We represent pretty much everyone who has ever thought about playing From's games. And I guess I'll start and then I'll turn it over to you. And I would say that this game is absolutely far more accessible than any, at least for me, far more accessible than any From game that I've played before. As far as me being able to spend time playing the game. In From's prior games, I would have got to Magritte and I would have quit. Because there was nothing else to do. If you couldn't beat that boss, you can't go through the rest of the
progression.
game. Yeah. In this game, you can just leave. And there's stuff to do. Now, I would argue that the stuff that you end up doing seems okay at first, and after a while, it starts to feel really repetitive and dull. I have spent some time just on the horse, just riding as far as I can ride to just see stuff.
That. Yeah, to see stuff. And like, I mean, this is not unique to Elden Ring. It's an open world thing I like to do. I like to jump from checkpoint to checkpoint. And
I do that too.
And I'm like, as soon as I see that gold thing in the distance, I'm like, I'm going to get to that site of grace.
I've been doing that too.
I like to see how deep I can go in enemy territory, especially when I realize I have no business being here yet.
Because you jump off and you fight one enemy and you're like,
oh no. Oh, yes.
But it is kind of fun to even just ride past them and just get to sites of grace so that then you have fast travel points for later on. So there's some value in playing this game beyond just fighting the bosses. I do believe ultimately, though, this predominantly is a boss rush game. How many bosses did you say there are in this game?
I think there's like 80.
That's insane.
Obviously, most of those are optional.
Yeah. Because there's only, 8 main bosses you have to beat?
Something like that.
Ultimately?
I don't know. I mean, there's more than that, but there's 8 or 9 main character bosses, and I think there's more you have to fight between things.
Yeah.
But yeah, only a fraction of the 80 are mandatory bosses.
Yep. So in conclusion, I would say that prior From Software games for people like me were essentially worthless. I'd play a couple hours, I'd be like, F this. This game has value for people like me. Even if maybe you get good at it and you end up becoming another Matt, who knows? Mm-hmm. Or maybe you're like me and you're like, I'm probably not going to dedicate 80 hours of my life to this game to try to get a lot better at it or start to understand or go on YouTube and watch videos or go on Google and search stuff. I don't want to do that for a video game. I saw someone tweet something like, I already have a job. I don't need another one. Honestly, that's kind of how I feel about this game. It does feel like work to me at times, but even if I had spent $60 on this game...
That's how I feel about MMOs.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Even if I had spent $60 on this game and Bandai Namco didn't send us review code, I don't feel like I would have been cheated at this point. I almost feel like I've already got enough out of it that I would have been okay paying for the game.
Yeah.
But I do not think that this game is going to drastically change the minds of people like me.
No, I think some people... I've definitely seen some people who have come around on it and are like, finally, I kind of get it. Mm-hmm. But I think that's going to be less common than people are just like, oh, this is the same thing. Because it is. And... Yeah, I mean, I would say that just because it has kept you playing longer, at some point I would suggest when you've got some distance from it to start over with a sword and shield build.
Think it would probably help me
and learn how that works.
Yeah.
Because it is easier. Just when the fact that I can stand there and I can, now at this point I could probably go up to, I mean, I can't because he's dead, but if I go up to Magritte or Madrid, whatever his name is, and
we've probably been calling it wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember.
I don't remember what it is.
It was so long ago.
Our apologies if we've been calling him by the wrong name.
We have been, I'm sure. I just don't remember. But I could probably tank 8 or 9 hits from him now.
Yeah. See, I'm still at 2 and I'm done.
And with the fact that because that's the other thing you gotta learn, and there's things like that I didn't know early on. I was like, okay, when I first played Dark Souls, I was running around with a shield and I'd block with a shield and I'd still get hurt, and I didn't understand. Oh, how come I'm getting hurt? I'm blocking it with my shield, and it turns out that there's a protection stat on the shields, and only the shields that have 100 protection block all the damage. So, if you have a one that says 87, you're gonna let 13% of that damage through.
Yeah.
And so, I didn't know that game doesn't really tell you that. It's just sort of you got to infer it. And so now that I know, I'm like, and that's one of the things with shields. One of the reasons I've used the brass shield forever is because it's 100%. It has a strong damage potential if I need to hit somebody with it. Mm-hmm. I infused it with a barrier Ash of War so I can have an invincible block with it. I haven't even upgraded it. Yeah, it just blocks all the damage. It's what I need. It doesn't weigh too much. And I get other shields. I'm like, oh, that shield looks really cool. I'd like to have that on my character. And then it's physical block 67. I'm like, well, then you're useless to me. I play with 100% blocking, and the fact that you can sit there and tank it is a big deal. And
it is, but it's work to find this out, find out all this information. Anecdotally, Paul George, who is a really good basketball player for the LA Clippers, he bought the game, and he went on Twitter, and he is like, Elden Ring, what do you think? And he didn't even say, what his experience was at all. He just said, Elden Ring, what do you think? Mm-hmm. And obviously, his followers are all hardcore basketball fans. They're mostly casual players. And the vast majority of them were like, F this game. One guy said, if you can beat the guy on the horse, you can cure cancer. And it was interesting to see all these people who had got sucked into buying the game because of the review scores and everything, and all the social media chatter and everything were like, holy F, Like, what the hell is this thing? So I do not think that it's going to convert people. But for someone like me who I feel like I have strived to try to get these games, I can see the differences and the changes, and I did enjoy this far more than almost all of them. The only other game that I think you particularly
are having a different experience than you would have if you'd never played any of the previous games.
Yeah. I have played this more than any other From game. The only other game that I played even close to it was Sekiro. So, and
Sekiro is a very different thing. The advantage of Sekiro, and one of the things I do like about it, is that you always have, you start that game with everything you need in your toolbox to beat the final boss.
All the way to the end, yeah.
Like, you have enhancements and other skills you can get to, but the baseline character never really improves to the degree that a character in these games does. Like, you're a much more powerful character, 50 hours into this game than you are when you start, and Sekiro is basically... And that's one of the reasons Sekiro is harder, is because you have to master everything. If you don't... it's like... Sekiro is the purest get good of all the From games.
But for me, the combat in that clicked for me more than any other.
Right, because it's snappier and faster, and you don't have to worry about leveling up some weird arcane system.
Right.
You automatically have the tools you need to beat whatever you're up against.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, with this, there is get good or whatever, but there's also just, like, get 20 more points in strength and kill it in 4 hits instead of 20, right. And upgrade your sword, and that's different.
It matters, yeah.
And Sekiro, I think, was a purer, and again, like, I think I come at these from a fighting game background a lot, and Sekiro was a purer fighting game sort of pedigree in that regard. I think it's still here in these. Like, when you talk about, like, oh, I can't cancel into a block, I'm like, no shit, you're throwing a fireball. Like, I can't cancel out of a fireball and block in Street Fighter. Like, you got to commit to the attack.
Yeah, I'm talking about my spear.
Yeah, but spears too.
Yeah.
Like, you can't cancel out of a roundhouse kick. Like, that's a commitment. And there are ways, I don't know if it's in there. I haven't used a spear in this game, but there are some of the other games, like, do let you sort of put the shield up and have the spear out and poke people with it while you're blocking.
Yeah.
I don't know if this game does that. I would imagine it does, because it seems to do just about everything else.
I should actually add a footnote to my final
impressions. This guy
is
overwhelming the first time you see him. Like,
he's a hard ass, yeah.
These guys are the demi-human chiefs, yeah.
Yep. One note I would add, though, to kind of my summation of the game, I would not tell my casual friends to buy this game.
No.
So I have a big crew of friends in Philly who all play games, and they always ask me, should I buy this? Should I buy this? I would not tell them to buy this, because they would be really mad at me when I showed up for my fantasy football draft in August. They would be like, bro, I flushed $60 down the toilet. They just would be. They will do exactly what we said earlier. They will come to the horse guy, get their ass handed to him 20 times in a row, and be like, I hate Shane, and turn it off and never go back to it.
This definitely kind of raises the debate again of, like, is a 10 out of 10 game, does it have to be for everybody?
Right.
Is a 10 out of 10 game something that does it have to be something that you're willing to put in the hands of anyone who likes video games?
I mean, I found so many issues with this game. It would have never got anywhere close to a 10 out of 10 for me.
I have definitely seen more weird things in this than I have in, like, Horizon.
Just the drawing and everything is more than enough reason for me to not
the fact that none of the technical issues and certainly the frame rate problems were mentioned is very weird to me.
It is odd.
Now, part of it, I think, is just, like, it's a lot easier to just give this game a high score and not get the death threats that you're going to get for giving it less than 9.5.
Because I've seen some people being treated really poorly, and there are people who really liked the game, who gave it a high score, and you just see them getting ganged up on.
Any criticism of this thing is going to get you attacked.
So what's going to happen to us after this episode goes live?
I don't care.
I mean, I think we were fair to it, though. I think we were.
I mean, I like it a lot. I'll tell you something scandalous. I like Horizon Forbidden West more.
It's as far as enjoying playing a video game, Horizon is head and shoulders above this game for me.
I mean, I put 60 hours into this thing. It's not like I don't like it. I don't put 60 hours into anything I play for this show usually. But, like, I put about that much time into Horizon too. And look, if I had not had to play this for the show, I would have probably just kept playing Horizon and gotten to this game, a few weeks or months later after the stuff had been patched up and more strategies were available online.
Okay, so here's a comment from our chat, and I want to hear your take on this. This is from Ashes in the Hourglass. Who cares about the technical aspects? No one is going to play Horizon in 10 years, but Souls games will be played for decades.
That's bullshit. Souls games will not be played for decades
because better than that, dude.
Souls games will not be played for decades because there's going to be another game and another game and another game that come out.
Matt, do you think that there is a bigger franchise where the fanboys are more? I want to be very careful with the words I use here, where they're just kind of delusional about it.
Final Fantasy,
maybe.
They're not as aggressive, but they're up there. Also, if you want to go outside gaming, there's a lot.
Oh yeah, you're talking sports fans and soccer
sports fans, Star Wars,
absolutely.
That. But no, like that kind of shit is just doesn't help anybody.
You're better
it's ridiculous.
Than that, dude.
And you know who's
I've seen him in our chat every week.
And you know who's gonna play Horizon in 10 years? Me. Because I really like those games, and I'll go back to them.
Hell kind of statement
ridiculous.
Was that?
Absolutely ridiculous.
I love you, bro. You're in our chat.
Like I get it. Horizon is a single player kind of one and done thing, but like and I'm sure Twitch streamers will, if Twitch is still around in 10 years and we're not all desperately looking for water in the desert, like they will still be playing these games as sort of, in the same way that they're speed running, N64 games. Like that, some stuff just lasts forever. But
these declarative statements,
I definitely care about the technical issues because it does. Why in the world does the PS5 not run this game at 60?
Rock solid.
Why 60. Not?
Yeah.
Like Horizon Forbidden West runs at 60 in performance mode, and it looks vastly better than this. And it's doing the open world thing, and it's doing giant characters. It's not doing anything that this game isn't doing. It's doing way more in a lot of places, but it's still optimized better. It's still technically vastly superior, and you've still got the situation where things are like the fucking online didn't work in the Xbox version. Like, what the hell are you doing? Like, they've screwed up the Xbox version of their ports for these things for like 5 games now. Like, the slack this company has cut is ridiculous. It's Zelda level stuff.
At a certain point for me, I just look at it like, am I having fun playing this game or am I not? And which game am I enjoying playing more than and it's Horizon. It's, to me, way more fun, way more polished. Every element of the game is handled. The graphics are amazing. The story's amazing. The writing is amazing. The voice acting is... You can't just say that stuff doesn't count because it doesn't bode well for the game that you like more. Yeah. Like, it's kind of like stop the count the votes. Like, it's like when it fits your narrative.
Like, at what point in the last 10 years has anyone suddenly said that frame rate doesn't matter?
Especially in a game like
all
this.
of a sudden it doesn't matter because the frame rate in Elden Ring is bad on the console.
So is he also admitting now that it isn't like you don't have to get good? Because the frame rate doesn't matter.
They're all admitting that. I mean, there's people. There's an argument I saw online today where people were like saying that like if you use exploits or you use too much magic, you didn't really beat the game. And so now they're gatekeeping how you play, even though one of the appeals of these games is that you can play it any way you want.
Yeah.
Like you can almost every build in these games is viable in some way.
Skeetle Juice PSM makes a good point. There are some Nintendo fans that are like this as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Where they're just like, it doesn't matter that there's no voice acting in Nintendo's games. It doesn't matter that there's no story in Nintendo's games. It does matter.
Yeah, it does. But you know what? I will give them this. Nintendo makes sure everyone can play their games.
That is true. Yeah, they're accessible.
And Nintendo's games tend to be technically pretty rock solid.
Yeah. So there you go. There is an hour and about 20 minutes on Elden Ring, and I still feel, Matt, that we could have continued talking about the game.
Could have kept
and that
going.
Is a pretty good indicator that the game's pretty good.
Yeah, game's really good.
That it could generate discussion between you and I for this long. It also helps that we're kind of on different ends of the spectrum with the franchise. So yeah, I think we had a healthy discussion. I think everyone's kind of sides were addressed. Anyone have any questions for us about this before we move on?
I mean, I do really like it. It's like I'm still gonna keep playing it after we're done here. But
I'm wondering if I'm gonna keep playing it or not. I think I probably
I'm gonna
will.
finish. I know I'm gonna finish it. I finish these things
the
usually.
The problem is that
I don't like it better than Sekiro and Bloodborne. Yeah, but I do like it.
What is your favorite From game?
Sekiro.
Okay.
Sekiro and Bloodborne are my favorites, partly because they are snappier and faster, and Bloodborne in particular rewards aggressive play, which I like. If you get hit and then you do hits back, you get some of that life back, which I like a lot. This, I mean, look, I like open world stuff, so of course I like this one. After I got kind of in the groove and figured out how the open world in this one talks, because early on I was like, yeah, there's just a camp here and a ruin here with a bear in it, like who gives a shit? But then like once you can go down this thing and this is okay, and there's like there's all dungeon down here and there's all that. Once I figured out kind of how it was laid out in that regard, there's a lot more to find, and I like that. I started riding around and finding the variety because early on it's also just like a bunch of fields, and eventually you start running to like weirder and weirder areas, and that's really cool.
That was the fun of just riding.
Yeah, for sure. The riding
you go until and sometimes like you're riding along and something just jumps out and just kills you.
Oh yeah, it's like
it's like
oh my god, it's raining wolves.
Comes
like,
up out of a bush and just like takes your head off, and you're like, whoop! I guess I rode a little too far.
And then you kill the horse, and like you just sort of end up on your back, and you're like, well, I guess that's it. It's like,
and I'm not coming back and getting these freaking runes either.
Yeah. Oh, I always come back for the runes, or just turn a corner. It's like dragon. I had to go back. You gotta go the other way. Or just finding like that's one of the things I like is finding like weird little things that end up like there's a couple things that ends up like teleporting you places like traps or like things. It's like go here and touch this, and it's like oh suddenly you're in this place you don't know where you are, and you're like oh I'm surrounded by very powerful things and I need to get out, and that becomes sort of like a weird like cannonball run like out of the horrible high level area to get back to somewhere that's safer. Which I guess I could, but also like I could probably just teleport out to like another site of grace, but at the same time I'm like. Really want to open some fast travel points up here just in case I need to come back. So it's like that risk reward comes into play again. And I really like that. Like that's a lot of fun. Like I appreciate the intricacy of the level design of the maze that like the Dark Souls games do. Mm-hmm. But this is a very satisfying way to do it too. Like I wouldn't if they do another game and they don't do an open world, I'm not going to be particularly disappointed. Like, I'll be glad to play another game that's more in the standard Dark Souls format. But I would like to see them continue to build on this open world idea.
I hope to God they keep making games this way, because I will probably not go back and play it if they go back to the old style.
I can't. This thing sounds like it's selling substantially better than the and part of that is because you've duped a lot of people that don't know any better. So
there's a lot of broken hearts over the weekend.
I saw a thread on Twitter that was just like photos. It was just photos of used copies they've already found in GameStops for $54.99 because someone already sold it back like a day later.
All it takes, honestly, is a couple hours.
Yeah, you know if
you'll
it's
figure it out pretty quick
for sure.
Ashes is trying to one up his prior comment with this new one. Shane, stop trying to like these games. You either bend to their will, cause they never will bend to yours. What kind of comment is that? Why do you want to discourage someone from playing a game?
That's the new narrative from like the really toxic Souls bros. Sometimes is like, just admit it's not for you, and you want to go play baby games, basically.
Oh, I see.
That's the angle on that to some degree. And it's and look, it's fine to admit that a game isn't for you. Like it's it's like but like. And I'm sure if you weren't hosting
MMOs,
right? But I'm sure if you weren't hosting a show about the major releases of video games every week, you would not.
I probably would not have played it. Yeah,
but like it's kind of required. Like you can't have this discussion if you don't play it, and I do.
It's good for me to go out of my comfort zone and try new things. It's good for every one of you.
Technically, I should play. Technically, I should play Madden every year.
Yeah,
but like,
I wouldn't. No, that's okay. You've played Madden before.
Like, I played. You get it. Like, although I will say, like, the thing with, like, the canceling and stuff, like, to my ear, having, like, a veteran of these games, when you complain about not being able to do that, it's like if I'm going to get this wrong because I don't know anything about football, it's like if I picked, and it's probably the wrong thing, but I feel like if I picked the nickel formation and was mad that I didn't get the blitz.
Okay.
Like, it's just not what that does.
Yeah.
Like, you got to pick your defense.
I understand that, but there's one franchise left that handles combat like this. Well, now there are some clones that are coming out. I don't even know.
A lot of them do. And
also, they have canceling though, the clones?
Some of them do.
Uh-huh.
This
is straight out of like 2008, 2009.
Okay, this is where I'm going to stop you because partly it is because they were made originally then, but also it's a valid choice for a combat system.
I'm not saying it's invalid. I'm just saying that most developers have moved away.
Every fighting game is like this. Like you have to. That is how.
Is there no move cancels in fighting games?
You can cancel some stuff, and some games, like a lot of Blaze Blue and stuff like that, they have cancel mechanics that like are bar driven. Like you can like cancel certain things, kind of thing.
Oh, got you.
But that is how you get hit in a fighting game is recovery frames. Like you can't block until your move has recovered, and if you throw the wrong move out at the wrong time, you can get punished. That's what a punish is.
Yeah.
Like so that is, and like yes. There's a different dynamic in place because when you're playing against a human being in a fighting game, you know that they have legitimately realized what your mistake was and punished you for it. Mm-hmm. Whereas if a CPU boss in a Dark Souls game is doing that, you're kind of like, okay, did you do that legitimately or did you just instantly know my input was going to be wrong, so you loaded up the exact right thing to hit me? Like that is a thing. I mean, that's true of playing the CPU in an SNK fighting game too. True. Those fuckers are that's the Dark Souls of video games. Is trying to beat those SNK bosses halfway through. There's one, I can't remember the name of it. There was an SNK thing that I've literally never gotten past the mini boss because they do that all the time.
There is a reason that pretty much every other developer has moved past that, though, for action games.
I'm not going to...
And it works here. And
I don't think that's true,
I can totally
though.
appreciate that some people like it. There's just a reason there aren't many games that do it anymore.
It's partly because it's easier to do it the other way. And because that way you get less people complaining, and because it expands the audience. That's the thing is, and there was...
To me, it just feels more reactive. Like I'm actually in control of the character.
I just don't agree with that at all. I feel completely in control of these characters because I know how they work. Like, that's all it is, a learning curve. Yeah, so, because you haven't learned how it works yet.
I do know how it works now, and I just
But you
don't
haven't
like
learned
it.
how to do it.
It's okay if I just don't like something.
I know.
I can understand how it works and just not like it.
You can, but you're sitting there saying that, like, it's primitive. And, like,
I do
everyone
think
else...
it's primitive because
I
played games like this in the early aughts. And
it's not primitive. You just aren't good at it.
No, it's... Oh, God, here we go. Now you're pulling out the get good bullshit.
I'm not calling about get good. I'm like, just say you don't like it. You don't have to say that it's primitive.
Let's move on. It's time to move on.
You don't have to say that it's primitive. It's not. It's just a choice. And if they
But why haven't other people done it? Why has everyone else abandoned it?
Because it's very hard to do it and not make it feel bad and not make it unbalanced. And From more or less nails that balance. It's a very hard thing. And you have to be really good at hitboxes, and a lot of them are not. And look, even From can be bad at hitboxes because the launch version of Dark Souls 2 had terrible hitboxes. So you can fuck that up, too.
I just like feeling like I'm in control. Like, I don't like hitting a button and then having... Here's the thing about these games is I know I'm going to die like 3 seconds before I die. Because you already know that you've overcommitted. Yeah. That you've hit the button one too many times. And you've hit that button one too many times, and then you sit there and you wait to watch that lunge. Yeah. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Well, you could not overcommit.
I prefer games like Devil May Cry or Ninja Gaiden, where it just feels like attack, attack, block, and it's there. It's attack, 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 block, attack, 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 block. And it's just this flow of the combat. And it's just 2 of one and 1 of another. And I don't think it's right for you to say I'm like not good at it and that's why I don't like it. That's not true. But I just prefer this other style.
If you're constantly complaining about failing at it, I think it's fair to say you're not good at it. But what I'm saying is...
I don't feel like I am failing at it, though.
If you're constantly dying, you are.
Everyone's dying. The catchphase of the series is prepare to die. It's not just me.
Right, and I died too, but I don't get upset about it. I don't act like it's a failure of the game that I'm dying.
I didn't say it's a failure of the game. I said I don't like it.
Right, but then you go back and say that it's like no one else does it because it's primitive and it should be done differently.
No, I said no one has done it for a long time. Why is that?
And I think it's because, in large part, you're trying to appeal to more people.
Right, because people don't like it.
Tons of people like this.
Well...
Not as many as they could. I mean, Miyazaki just did an interview, I think, yesterday, where he doubled down on, we're not going to add an easy mode. We're not going to make them any simpler. We're not going to change how it works. We like how it works. That's how... And look, these games... I mean, it looks like Elden Ring's going to sell more copies than the previous ones have just because of the momentum they have coming off the George R.R. Martin and the publicity. But these things could... they sell about 5 million copies. They could sell 10 if you added some accessibility features. But From has chosen not to do that. Mm-hmm. I think that's if their business model decides that's okay. I mean, I think it's dumb. I think there probably should be. I don't think anything gets taken away from these games if you add an easy mode or accessibility options or whatever. Almost every game I have ever played has an easy mode, and I have never used them. And it does nothing to my experience.
Yeah, I've seen articles about people are like, how would you change it? I think it's very simple. You just lower the damage output of enemies.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you have to do.
Up your damage, lower the enemy damage. Yeah, that's it.
If you can let me take 6 hits from a greet, I can beat him now.
Yeah,
but I can't
because that's really the only difference when you level up, right?
Right.
I mean,
you can absorb more damage.
You still got to memorize the patterns, but you just have a few more chances.
Yeah, right. You have a bigger margin for error.
And I don't see what that takes away from anybody.
I don't either.
As long as your ego isn't riding on whether you can beat a video game or not, I have friends who really want to play these games, but their hands, they have either disabilities or problems with their hands, or they don't have reflexes for it, and they desperately want to play them, and they just can't. They've tried and they can't. It's just like, why exclude those people?
Yeah.
And it's like, look, if it's Miyazaki's choice, then it's Miyazaki's choice. But I don't understand why you've got these fan base people running around saying if you can't play it, just play something else. Well, no, they don't want to play something else. They want to play Bloodborne. And you go bang on and on and on about how great these stories and the lore and the art and everything is, and it is. So why can't more people experience that? And you just don't pick that easy mode.
Yeah.
Why is that impacting? That's the thing.
Gatekeeping and ego.
It's huge gatekeeping
and
ego. It's ridiculous.
And all that crap. I did ask people for questions and we just kind of ignored them. So I just want to go back very quickly and make sure I haven't missed anything. It is easier when we have a PC here where we can check stuff.
Yeah, I don't miss the iPad.
Yeah, it's a pain in the
The
ass,
Dark
man.
Souls of chat, live chat.
It helps Matt too because the screen's right here and I blow it up big.
Yeah, I can keep an eye on that over there.
Sometimes you clue me into that stuff.
I mean, I can see it on my phone, but
I will say this: I feel like the Dark Souls fans are some of the most toxic fans in gaming right now, just in general.
Yeah, I mean,
like they just seem very angry.
I mean, I'm sure it's a thing where it's like they're just the toxic ones are loud. You know?
Yeah.
But like, I mean, I'm sure most people who play these games don't care if there's an easy mode in there. Like, I would never notice if there was. I mean, I would notice because there'd be tons of press about it, right? But I would never notice. If you just quietly put an easy mode in Dark Souls, a patch, I would never notice it's there.
Now we have Minority Games in chat saying, "Oh, since I told people to try new things, he's going to try cocaine." Like,
that's called a slippery slope fallacy, and it's not an actual valid argument.
Okay.
That's the problem.
What is going on in our chat?
That's the
today?
problem with Dark Souls.
You guys have lost your freaking minds today.
The problem with Dark Souls, it leads to heroin.
Exactly. Saber Juno Shane, I wish I could be the coach to your little Mac and train you for Souls games. That's gonna happen. I'm gonna do Shane versus Elden Ring.
Yeah, you're still doing that.
Yeah, the episode I think is on Saturday. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Sifted Games for the exact time, but I think the stream's gonna happen on Saturday, so just a few days away. And I will absolutely listen to all you guys, so please come and help me, and don't be douchebags. Some of y'all are being douchebags in our chat today. I don't know why. You guys get all fired up about these games. It's crazy.
But I will notice one thing. You have not complained about the stamina bar once today.
Because
the stamina bar has been really revamped in this.
Because that class in particular.
That class doesn't have it, but also the stamina.
You don't have to worry about
stamina regens in this game like that. Like
that class so in fast. Particular, as soon as you stop, zap.
Oh, they all do that.
Oh, yeah. They all do.
Oh yeah, I can get my. Yeah, I got huge.
I thought it was the class.
No, there is class. Okay, again, I swear to God, this is what people mean when they say listen to us. Classes don't matter in this game. It's literally just an arrangement of stat numbers. It means nothing. You are not locked into anything. It doesn't change how your stamina works at all. The stamina thing only gives you more. When you put in points into endurance, you just get more stamina points. The regen is identical speed, as far as I know, unless maybe dexterity pumps that. I'm not sure. That's another hidden thing, maybe. Because some of the games, yeah, there is a way to regen more stamina depending on what thing you put points into. But like I've got a huge stamina bar because I use Sword and Shield. And like, if I stand back for like half a second, I've got almost all my stamina back. Like the stamina is very forgiving in this game, probably because it needs to be because there's so many enemies and everything happens so fast. Whereas like the other Dark Souls games takes forever at times.
Grimshaw Rocks says, "Would you have liked a true co-op mode, and why is there no crossplay?" Yeah, I mean, I would love to play this whole game with someone else.
It still does the co-op thing where it's only in the area you do it in. That, right?
Which is still pretty cool, though.
And the multiplayer, like you have to really choose to involve yourself in it. Like you don't get invaded at random unless you activate that feature.
Yeah, I've never been invaded because I didn't turn it on.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I haven't really messed with that too much. I did put the ring on that lets you be pulled into other people's worlds if they need help against an invader, but I haven't actually been pulled in any worlds yet.
Sneaky says, "What's up, Sneaky? Did you see the nonsense with Huber saying it takes away from his accomplishments if I complete his hard game on easy?" I did not. I'm guessing that's Huber from Easy Allies. I didn't see that at all. Look, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I'm not going to say someone's a douchebag. Because
I guess he got upset because Sifu got its easy mode.
Oh, gotcha.
Which again. I mean, I think I established that I like Sifu a lot. I do not care in any way, shape, or form if someone plays that game on easy. I do not understand that mentality at all. That is completely alien to me.
FF Master C says you can respec your points.
Yeah, I've seen people talk about that. I just don't know how to do it.
Yeah, I'll Google it when I get home. I didn't know if you could or not. Okay, that's great. I think I saw earlier in chat that someone said that they donated a significant amount of money to us today, and I can't find it in chat. Thank you. If that's indeed, they said that they had not been like doing Twitch Prime or whatever and just decided to just give us a big chunk of money. That's awesome. I'm sorry I lost it in here somewhere, and I want to thank you by name, but I can't find it.
Furax75.
You're right. That's who it was. Furax75, thank you, man. It means the world to
subscriber
us.
since the pre-release days, but I missed so many Twitch Prime free subs, so I donated $100 to the website. Keep it up. It's all love, baby.
Thank you, man. That makes a big difference for us. It
Luckily,
really
the
does.
iPhone scrolls forever.
Yeah. Yeah, this one cuts it off at a certain point.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about.
It's bizarre. Okay, we got to move on. We're going to sound like the Micro Machines guys getting through the last 5 topics.
Yeah,
of
there's
this.
your 2 hours on Elden Ring. Well, I guess we talked about TGS.
Yeah, we talked about other stuff too. So anyway, we do need to move on. We're going to talk about the brand new Pokemon game that was just announced this week. There was a Pokemon Presents that went down. The brand new Pokemon game is called Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. And Matt, it appears that it is following in the footsteps of Arceus. It is a little interesting though because yeah, it's going to have, according to Nintendo, it's going to have an open world. But at the same time, Nintendo said that this is the first time that we're trying like an open world concept building on the concepts of Arceus. So I'm not sure if it's like going to be, because Arceus was kind of an open world, but really wasn't.
Yeah,
like,
it's open area. I mean, it's sort of like, they've been kind of building it. I mean, even Sword and Shield had that to some, the big areas.
Open areas, yeah.
So I just assume that this is sort of, my guess is that this is basically just building on what Sword and Shield did, and they're invoking Arceus because like Arceus sold really well, and was well received. So you want people to associate this with that because there's no way it's building that much on Arceus because it's the main series.
Yeah. Here's Nintendo's exact quote actually. Trainers can explore an open world where various towns with no borders blend seamlessly.
That's a difference.
It is. Blend seamlessly into the wilderness. Pokemon can be seen everywhere in this wide open world, in the skies, in the sea, and on the streets. It will have players will have a different outfit depending on which game they are playing. Trainers will then choose either I can never say this, Sprigatito, the grass cat Pokemon, Fuecoco, the fire croc Pokemon, which I think looks like an alligator made out of an apple, or Quaxley, the duckling Pokemon, which looks just like Donald Duck. It's a white duck.
Yeah, I've seen the evolution things where it's like it evolves to one of the nephews, and then it evolves to like Kingdom Hearts Donald.
Yeah, that's a little weird. Yeah, how do you feel about this, Matt? The game to me looks awful graphically.
I mean, it looks about like what we expect at this
point. I think
point.
it looks worse than Arceus, though.
Yeah. But it looks better than Sword and the Shield.
Like, they show a Voltorb in this trailer, and they're kind of close up to it, and you can see, like, the angles on the... It's supposed to be round, and it's not made out of enough polygons.
It looks about, like... So
look at that right there. Look at that shot. Look at the... Look at the NPCs, or whatever the hell they probably call them, back in the background walking
I'm surprised that there's, like, shine on the, like, the electrode and stuff, like, on the snake scales and stuff, like... I mean, it's Pokemon. Like, no one expects it to look particularly good.
When can we start expecting it to look particularly good, maybe is my question.
I don't think ever.
Really?
I think Pokemon's just always going to be
you think
like...
relatively it's always going to look poor?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
Because it's all it has to look like.
That's a shame. But, yeah, this game does not look particularly good. I do think that
it looks pretty good for a Pokemon mainline game.
I mean, look at that Switch there. It's just...
That was pretty good.
Well, yeah. That's live action footage.
Oh. I thought it was Horizon Zero Dawn for a second.
Here's the other part of it, Matt. It's coming out late this year.
Yeah.
How do you think
do you
think that's going to cannibalize the sales of Arceus?
No, I think Arceus will have been out for most of the year.
Do Pokemon games not have legs like that?
I think Pokemon games generally do, but like Arceus, you just don't know what it's going to do. Like it's
sold very well so far.
It's a separate series.
Yeah.
So it's Pokemon Legends. It's a different thing. So
you don't think it'll burn people out though? And they're like, man, I already spent 80 hours playing Arceus this year. I don't know if I can do it again.
No, because this is Pokemon. This is the main series. This is not the same gameplay. So.
It's interesting to me that casual players can't pick up on stuff like this Elden Ring game is by the same people who made Dark Souls, but they can pick up on, okay, this is the mainline Pokemon, but Arceus is like a spin-off.
Well, because the mainline Pokemon games are named after colors.
They're always,
they come out in
blank
pairs
and
like, it's fine.
So you don't think it'll affect
maybe if they turn the lights on more often at Game Freak, they would know what graphics are supposed to look like.
So you don't think it'll have a negative impact on either game? You don't think it'll hurt the sales of this game or Arceus?
No.
Interesting.
I think you got enough distance. The thing I would be concerned about is if they're putting a mainline Pokemon game out in like November. I'm gonna call it now. Breath of the Wild 2 is next year, if that.
Don't say that, Matt.
Like
Please
I don't know where you put Breath of the Wild 2 if you've got a Pokemon game there and you've got Xenoblade in September.
How can they not release it again this year?
So I saw, was a Twitter thread or a Reset Era post? I can't remember what it was, but it was somebody who made the excellent point that the second Zelda game released on a system sells about half as much as the first one. So it would make business sense to hold Breath of the Wild for the next system.
And only ever release one Zelda per system till the end of time?
Maybe.
That seems crazy.
You'd think.
I mean, it does take them way too long to make Zelda games.
It does. Like,
there's no denying
if you're gonna, and clearly they've thrown a lot of time, effort, and money into this one. So if you, I'm sure it will be available on Switch, and eventually the next one.
Yeah.
You know, like Twilight Princess was one of the ones noted. It sold like 8 million copies, because it was a launch thing. But then Skyward Sword sold something like 3. Mm-hmm. And all of it, the I think the biggest drop was Spirit Tracks from Phantom Hourglass, but that was probably because both of those games are terrible.
Yeah.
The other big drop was Ocarina to Majora's Mask, which is again a not 1-to-1 comparison because Majora's Mask is a very different game from Ocarina, but Ocarina is probably the closest comparison in terms of just the revolutionary sort of atom bomb of like, it shook the industry kind of thing that Breath of the Wild was for whatever reason. Breath of the Wild and Elden Rings, the praise of both of their open worlds have some things in common in terms of like, have you played an open world game in like 7 years?
Right.
'Cause
yeah.
there's not really any. Yeah. But Breath of the Wild, I think we can more or less assume that Breath of the Wild 2 is not going to be Majora's Mask was sort of a hard left. From what Ocarina was. Majora's Mask was a very weird
that
game.
comparison really holds up for that. But
well, it does to some degree in the sense that like people kind of had to buy stuff a little more blind back then.
I know I wasn't an evangelist for Majora's Mask.
No, I don't like that game very much. I like the 3DS version a lot better because they added a lot of quality of life stuff. But I have found it repetitive and irritating most of the way. I know it's like a big favorite in the Zelda fan base, but I thought it was just weird and annoying.
Yep, me too.
And but it sold like barely half of what Ocarina did. So, correct or not, I can definitely see Nintendo's sort of analysis saying like, well, if we want this thing to sell Breath of the Wild 1 numbers, we got to put this thing out as a launch title. Mm-hmm. So, and we just saw that NVIDIA stuff today with like some code name that apparently is the same as the Switch hardware chip.
Oh, I missed that. Actually,
yeah, that was like I think it was probably on the way while you were driving here. Actually,
okay.
It was like one of the some chip listing thing, and one of them is the same chip code number as the Switch one, but it has a 2 on it or something. So people are assuming that that's the Switch hardware.
Oh,
and so that like people are saying like, okay, next year 2024 probably.
Don't say that, Matt.
I don't know where you put Zelda if you've got Xenoblade and Pokemon.
Nintendo, it's okay to have a great Q4. It really is. I mean, they're not going to like cannibalize each other. Like, people will buy both if they like both, and no one's going to buy only one or the other.
I mean, if there's one major release you could get away with sort of putting out without impacting other Nintendo games, it probably is Pokemon. Yeah. Because Pokemon's sort of its own thing.
Yeah, I mean, people just buy it no matter what.
It's not like people are going to like not play Zelda because they got Pokemon.
Right.
Or vice versa, really.
Yeah.
But
we just got to convince Nintendo of this. Oh, I do. You don't want it to come out.
I wouldn't mind playing it this year.
Yeah.
But
I'm just talking about my fantasy
At the same time, I wouldn't mind playing it on better hardware.
Right.
So
yeah, I can understand that.
Kind of split on that one.
Also, with this event, they announced a new update for Arceus. Trainers will begin investigating mysterious mass outbreaks of Pokemon that are popping up all over the Hisui region. Is that how you say that?
Oh, Hisui? Yeah, I think Hisui. Yeah.
Players will also have a chance to battle powerful opponents like legendary Pokemon and Wardens, adding yet more options to the Pokemon battle experience. The production of an online animated series is also coming that's set in the Hisui region, and that's already begun. The series will feature an original storyline, and that's coming in later 2022 as well. I believe the Arceus update is already live. I think it actually went live the minute that they announced it in the Pokemon Presents. So, and then they're doing some other stuff in Pokemon Go, but I've deleted Pokemon Go from my phone about like 3 or 4 months ago. So I'm good on that. But overall, Matt, I would just say that I'm happy with the direction that Pokemon's taking.
Yeah.
Because I think we were both afraid that the next one was going to go back, and it was going to be, oh, now I'm capturing Pokemon, I'm going to have to go to this other screen again, and they're not going to be out in the open world. And
yeah, I mean, the open world's there, like, they're building that with Sword and Shield, but I mean, the main thing is that the gameplay is going to still be the standard turn-based, like,
yeah,
cut away from the open world to go to the battle screen kind of. It's not going to be Arceus where you.
Oh, you don't think so?
Oh no, not at all. No way.
Oh really?
This is
no one knows yet. They haven't shown.
This is a standard
footage.
Pokemon game. You are not throwing Pokeballs in real time. I guarantee you.
So you think they're going to go back to the old style,
absolutely,
where you capture Pokemon in this separate?
I will bet you any amount of money. Absolutely, this is a mainline Pokemon game.
That sucks.
That's absolutely what they're doing.
That would really suck, people. There's no going back now. It's so much better the way they do it in Arceus.
I mean, maybe for the next one, but this one was in parallel development with Arceus. They're not going to do that.
Wow, that would be really
again.
disappointing.
Pokemon Legends is the series where you're going to be throwing balls in real time. Pokemon is going to remain Pokemon.
I hope you're wrong.
I am not,
because I'll tell you what. If you are right, I don't know if I'll play this Pokemon.
I mean, you played all the Pokemons. You played all the Pokemons. You know?
I don't know if I'll do it again. After playing Arceus, it changed everything. Like, it's just absurd that they would go back to an inferior system. I get it, like, it's the brand or whatever, it's what people expect from.
If they were gonna revamp the series into being that, they would not have called Arceus Pokemon Legends. They would just call it Pokemon.
Okay, we'll see. I hope you're wrong, though. Usually I hope you're right, but in this case
I
hope
am
you're wrong.
100% certain of this.
Okay.
There's no way they changed it up that much.
Okay. So anyway, that's the latest update on Pokemon. Again, coming in late 2022, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. And there's an update to Pokemon Legends Arceus out there right now. Get on it. Let's move on. We're going to talk next about PlayStation Spartacus, which is PlayStation's response to Xbox Game Pass. At least that's what people think it is. It appears that it is. Some reporting.
Weird code name.
Yeah, I mean,
I am Spartacus, I guess, is that everybody's supposed to stand up and say that they're PlayStation? I don't know.
I guess. According to VentureBeat's Jeff Grubb, who breaks so many stories. He literally seems like he breaks a story a day. Mm-hmm. I feel like people are maybe just going to him just because they want the information out there now.
Yeah, I mean,
and they don't want to go through the pomp and circumstance of doing a press release and all this other crap.
Yeah, it's a lot easier than leaving a laptop open on a plane. So.
Seriously. But he seems to be getting scoop after scoop after scoop. I mean, he's kind of leaving Schreier in the dust at this point.
Schreier seems to be leaning more into like deep dive sort of expose stuff,
labor
disputes, and sort of the gears and pulleys of the industry, which is good. Someone needs to report on that.
Yeah.
When they're not writing handwritten quest logs for Elden Ring.
Jeff gets the game-centric scoops.
Yes.
And it's not just... It seemed like for a while he had an in at Xbox. But he's starting to get scoops now from all over the place. So it's interesting to see.
Schreier, I think, has moved on to more... honestly, more news reporting elements of the industry. So, and he's the only one doing that. So that's
we
good.
need him.
Yeah.
Yep. And he does a great job.
And Grubb has sort of stepped into that
as long as he's not
role.
talking about Elden Ring.
Yeah, that was weird.
Go make your own.
Make your own quest log. It's like, oh no, it's good that there's no quest log. Well, then why did you tell me to make one?
Yeah.
If it's good, there's no quest log. Why do I need to make one?
Why am I doing the work? Why don't they put it in the game? Anyway. He's usually on point, but in that case, he was way wrong.
That was a
not his shining.
That was someone who's been playing a lot of that game and had lost touch with reality for a second. I think. I usually like everything Schreier's doing, but that was not a great moment.
But anyway, VentureBeat's Jeff Grubb says that Spartacus will have 3 tiers. He's confirmed the pricing for him. The essential tier, and I'll be honest with you, he's always been right. I can't think of too many things that he's reported that have turned out to not be true.
Can't think of anything major. Certainly not anything like this that he just
So the essential tier is for $10 a month. And when I first heard that, I was like, wait, the lowest tier is $10 a month? And then because, there are rumors flying around that this is going to replace PlayStation Plus. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wait a minute, like $10 a month for PlayStation Plus, that's insane. I spend $60 a year for it. But people are saying that already, if you just buy a monthly pass for PlayStation Plus, it's $10 a month. Isn't that insane?
Really?
Yeah. Instead of being like $5 or $6 a month that you pay with the $60, my fear is they take away the $60 option. And they force people into this new Spartacus system where everyone has to pay at least $10 a month.
I mean, you remember when Xbox tried that.
Right. It was a disaster.
Lasted about 2 days.
Yep. And they're like, nope, everybody can still pay $60 for Xbox Live. And I was very thankful for that. So anyway, the essential $10 a month, and that's basically what you get with PlayStation Plus right now. Extra is for $13 a month. It adds all the downloadable PlayStation Now games. This is so weird how they're doing this. Right. And then the premium for $16 a month, which is by far the most expensive, way more than anything on Game Pass.
Almost $200 a month, a year.
Yep. Adds game trials and cloud streaming.
Ugh. No, thank you.
Why would you break up the downloadable and the streaming part of PlayStation Now and put them in different tiers?
Probably because the streaming requires more infrastructure and overhead. Yeah. And oh boy, is that not anything I want to pay extra for? Like, wow. Like, there's nothing in those higher tiers that has any interest for me.
Me either. If this reporting is accurate, well, it has no chance. It has no chance. No. And notice still no word on for.
I mean, if that converts to what PlayStation Network and PS Plus becomes, and I have to subscribe to it for online play and sort of like, I guess I'll do the lower tier, but like, yeah, that doesn't. There's nothing in there that makes me go, oh, that's a good idea for me. Like, it's
no. I mean, let's be honest, Matt. Until Sony commits to its first-party games being day and date on whatever this service ends up being, it has no chance to compete. It's not even about splitting up like game downloads versus game streaming. It's about, am I going to be able to play God of War on day one if I give you $16 a month?
Right. And if not, why am I giving you $16 a month? Like,
why wouldn't I go give Xbox $15?
Yeah, why don't I just not spend any of it?
Everything's downloadable.
And I'll just buy God of War.
Right.
Because I'm not waiting for that.
Yeah. I don't know what Sony's doing. It looks like it knows it needs to compete with Game Pass.
Sort of, but like,
but it's not willing to do what it needs to do.
I think it's different. I think they don't know if they need to compete with Game Pass or not, but they know that they might have to.
So they're kind of hedging their bet.
It feels like they're putting something in place, but they're sort of hoping they don't need it. You know what I mean? Like, because look, like, yeah, Game Pass was a great move to sort of like give appeal to a subscription service and a big library of games that Xbox could offer at a time when Xbox was simply not putting very compelling stuff out on a regular basis. So they involved a bunch of other indies and a bunch of third-party stuff, and it kind of became a really nice tapestry of games you could download day and date. Sony does not have trouble putting out compelling content that everybody buys in the millions on the first day of release.
Yeah.
So they don't really need a Game Pass in that regard. And they don't seem to have a lot of interest in it. So this feels like they're going to kind of make a head fake in that direction. But if they don't, turns out that their stuff holds steady and they don't need it to like fend off some like real move by Game Pass in some way, I feel like they're not going to really, it's going to be another PlayStation Now where it sort of like sits there in the back of the menus on the PlayStation and you never really think about it again.
Yeah. I've struggled to see a lot of value in it personally. I could understand someone who doesn't have an Xbox or a PC maybe finding some value in it because they don't have access to Game Pass.
Yeah.
But
that seems like a really limited audience to build all this for. And it doesn't really seem like they're building a ton. It seems like they're just sort of rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic.
Pretty much.
The PlayStation Now. You know?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good way to put the whole splitting up of the downloadable games versus the stream of... That literally is rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Xbox has such a huge lead at this point, too, with, around 30 million subscribers.
Yeah. I mean, I'm no business expert, but I feel like the smart move here is for Sony to keep doing what they're good at, which is to put out really good, compelling first-party content that people buy day and date and not worry about the fact that Microsoft is giving Gears of War away.
It's okay to leave PlayStation Now up.
Yeah.
And maintain it for people who want it.
I mean, you spent all that money on Gaikai, you might as well do it.
But I think the last figures we got were less than 5 million subscribers to PlayStation Now, if I remember correctly.
I think a lot of people don't realize PlayStation Now exists. So,
yeah, because as you said, it's like buried in your menus.
Because it's not an interesting service either. Like they go, because the other thing about it is like, PlayStation has not had a problem getting people to buy their stuff. Like, part of the compelling thing about Game Pass was like, oh, there's a bunch of Microsoft exclusives that I didn't feel like spending money on, but I'll download it and play it if you want to hand it to me, sure.
Yeah.
But Sony stuff, like when I look at like the place, when they did that thing, it was like, oh, you get the instant PlayStation library with the PS Plus on PlayStation 5. I owned all those games already.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't do me any good because I already had them all.
Yeah.
And, like, because it's not day and date, I'm still going to buy them when they come out because I don't want to wait however long before I get to play Horizon or God of War or whatever it is. So, like, what good does that do me? Like, unless it does day and date, there's no use for that service for me, and there's no real reason for Sony to go day and date because their software sells.
Yeah.
So, what are you doing? Like, like... I don't think that's just a matter of me being happy with the system as it is. I think it's just like Sony didn't need a Game Pass because they didn't have the same problems Microsoft did. And while, this is sort of that sort of weird, business capitalism thing where it's like, oh, our competitor is having success with this thing we're not doing, so we should do it too.
It's Sony FOMO.
And that is how you get the DC Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
And nobody wants
You're
that.
right, though. It does feel like Sony is like, oh, we're being left out of this. Like, we can't just let it go unchecked. But I feel like it's too late.
It doesn't feel like it fits their business model.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, like, that's not, like,
it's
bashing...
Like Xbox needed
and that's
Game
not,
Pass.
Yeah, that's not bashing Sony.
PlayStation doesn't need
right.
Spartacus.
Sony has a continued string of success. Like, they didn't need... Because Game Pass was kind of a Hail Mary. Mm-hmm. And they don't need
And they
that.
caught it.
And they did. It worked. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Sometimes crazy
works.
works.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like, I don't feel like you need to directly compete with that because it's I see what they're doing, like getting those pieces in place, because the concern I think is Microsoft is in the near future going to start putting out really compelling first party stuff with all those developers they bought, and Sony needs to be able to be ready to be agile if they have to be, to compete with that if Game Pass becomes a force with those developers too, and somehow there's some kind of thing where people just expect their big, important, interesting games like Starfield or Elder Scrolls 6 or whatever else. Yeah,
That's
Valve,
funny.
whatever.
I never actually noticed how closely those names are.
One's a ring, one's a scroll. They're totally different. But if it becomes a thing where the mass audience starts expecting, well, how come I don't get God of War for free when it comes out? And I got Starfield.
Yeah.
Like, Sony's got in a position to like adjust if they have to. But for now, I think it's better to make all these millions off your full price launch day game sales than to buying it. I think this is just you're putting the defenses on the beach, but you're sort of hoping you never have to use them.
Yeah, that's a good analogy, actually. But as of right now, I would not get too excited about Spartacus. I think
not Spartacus. Not yet, anyway.
Yeah, I think just laying out the plan for you guys just did that organically. I haven't heard too many people saying that they're excited about the prospects of Sony's competitor to Game Pass.
What Sony needs to do is let people buy PlayStations.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's beyond their ability. There's nothing they can do, really.
Yeah.
It's a bigger issue that goes beyond even the game industry itself. But
it is insane that we're sitting here like a year and a half almost after.
I mean, that chip shortage, you're not going to see that alleviated until next year. So
I mean, we'll probably never see. I hope we'll never see this again in our lifetimes. At least ours. Some of you watching, you probably will, but for Matt and I, probably not.
Wait till we run out of helium. That's when it's going to get real interesting. You can't supercool anything.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
I mean, you could do it with hydrogen, but guess what the problem with hydrogen is?
It's explosive.
Yeah. just a tad.
Yeah.
Just a little.
Highly. Yep. So anyway, there you go. That's the latest update on Spartacus. We keep waiting for PlayStation to actually talk about this. Everything we've learned about it has been just rumors and leaks.
I mean, that's sort of Sony in a nutshell these days.
It kind of is, yeah. But maybe we'll get official word from Sony in the not-too-distant future. It seems like around E3 time might be a good time.
Yeah, what would have been E3 time. Or maybe May. Like, they do tend to do, like, a big something in May.
That's
true.
They
usually do. They did the big Horizon presentation in May. They did the big Last of Us 2 presentation in May. So especially since they've left E3.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it could be a game. I mean, probably I would say I'd probably get a God of War thing in May.
Oh, for sure.
But,
like a big demo, first real like chunk of gameplay, stuff like that. Yep.
But this could be in there somewhere in like June or something like that.
Yep. Okay, let's move on. We're going to talk next about Fallout New Vegas 2. Did you hear about this, Matt?
Yeah. Just that it's like very early, like as long as we're both owned by the same mega corporation, we might as well talk about it, right?
Yeah. So was this also Jeff Grubb?
I don't remember.
Or was it?
I didn't see the original. I just saw people talking about it.
I made the mistake and did not put attribution for this in my notes. So if somebody knows, because I want, for the record, for it to be recorded in the show, who actually broke this story, because it takes a lot of gumshoeing to get stuff like this. So I want to give credit where it's due. The person who reported this, and we'll clarify that in a second. Oh, they're saying, it was Jeff Grubb. Okay, good. He's saying that right now there are talks going on about Fallout New Vegas 2. Mm-hmm. And those talks are going on with Obsidian. Mm-hmm. And
who made Vegas?
Who made Vegas 1. And the concern at the Xbox/Bethesda camp is that there's all this IP, and I don't know how this is possible, they don't have the bandwidth to get them all done. And so they fear that the Fallout franchise may end up sitting there for literally like 20 years, Matt, because according to Grubb, there's a 10-year plan for Starfield, and then a 10-year plan for the Elder Scrolls 6, which leaves them wondering, like, when do you get to Fallout?
Yeah, I thought about that. Like Fallout 5, if you leave it to Bethesda's internal main team, like with Todd and those guys, you're probably looking at the 2030s.
Right. Do you think that Bethesda A team needs to let go?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, look, as soon as they brought in Starfield as an idea, you had too many. 3 is too many. Mm-hmm. You have to be even.
Some could argue that 2 was too many.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Certainly, it seemed like too many when Fallout 4 turned out to be what it was. And after Fallout 4, I am more than willing to let anyone else take a shot at that. And 76 was partly out of house, but they were involved. I think this is the best move for Fallout. Give it to Obsidian, New Vegas. I am not as much of an advocate for New Vegas as a lot of people are.
Me either. I don't like it at all.
I found it a little. I replayed it during the pandemic with a ton of mods, and I liked it a lot better because it was fixed and it didn't crash all the time, and a lot of the quests made more sense because with the unofficial patch with it, and so I like that a lot better. It's still a mess if you play the vanilla version.
Still.
But, oh yeah, they never.
I thought they had fixed everything.
They didn't fix much
really?
of it because they had a huge falling out with Bethesda because they didn't get paid.
Right.
So
oh, what the hell? Like, how does Bethesda not pay a studio for work?
Because their Metacritic score was 1 point lower than the agreed score for the bonuses.
That's insane.
It was like 77 was the target, and they got 76 or something like that.
It wasn't even the bugs.
Which makes you wonder why Fallout 76 is called Fallout 76.
That's hilarious.
I don't know if that's true. I don't remember I might be getting the numbers wrong there.
It wasn't even the bugs that turned me off from this game. It's that the first 5 hours are boring as hell. Mm-hmm. You're trapped out in this crappy desert environment. It's very bland and
I appreciate the we're gonna do a Fallout where you are not someone coming out of a vault for once, but they did not find a particularly compelling angle
alternative.
For it. Yeah. But I did like it, and
once you get to Vegas, it picks up.
Absolutely, and it's got some of the most interesting quest lines, and it has It's got a difficult. Although Skyrim has this too. Skyrim doesn't get enough credit for doing the same thing New Vegas did in the sense that you've got the two factions to side with, and I don't like either of them. Traditionally in Skyrim I have generally sided with the Stormcloaks. Yeah. But for some reason, I'm not super into a group of homegrown terrorists who sort of rebel against the establishment anymore. Yeah. And have big fuck off beards. But New Vegas, it's the Caesar's Legion and the New California Republic, and they're both horrible in their own ways. Yeah. And you just sort of got to decide. You can piss them both off, I guess. It's going to make a lot more fighting for you. But I like that Obsidian never makes anything simple in that regard.
Yeah. I would argue Obsidian has improved a great deal.
Oh, for sure.
Since Fallout New Vegas.
For sure. I mean, I would never have thought they could put something together as frankly as polished as the Outer Worlds was,
and as quickly as they did,
and fast. Yeah. They've come a long way from the team. I mean, I know it was partly Sega's fault, but the team that made Alpha Protocol, which is just one of the most. I know it's got some of the most impressive branching in any kind of choice game. But holy crap, that game sucks to play.
It is crazy.
What a mess.
Yeah.
But Obsidian is a very different company and a lot of different new people now. But they do they have a tradition and a pedigree of storytelling that I think fits Fallout better in a lot of ways. If they were given the time and resources to make these things finished and complete, so I would very much like to see a New Vegas too. Although I should actually caveat on that. I don't think I need a New Vegas 2, but I would like to see Obsidian do another Fallout game.
That was my next question to you should Obsidian be creating Fallout 5 instead of Fallout
That's
New
what
Vegas?
I mean. I would like to see it take place somewhere else we haven't seen yet or some different...
Why not? Has Bethesda not played the Outer Worlds? Like, that is about as close to Fallout as you can get without getting sued.
That is absolutely.
I mean,
and the
Obsidian can do it.
The tone is the correct evolution of the tone that Fallout used to have. Like, Fallout has not evolved its humor or its tone under Bethesda, really.
Yeah, it's true. You're right. That's
an Obsidian, I think, could do that in the way they did with Outer Worlds had that sardonic element that Fallout feels like it's just pantomiming now.
Yeah.
And I think Obsidian just gets that in a way that Bethesda doesn't seem to.
Again, Bethesda's A-team, I feel like, needs to let go. It needs to be like, you know what, we can't do this, but we can't let this IP die.
Right, if they're gonna let go of one of them, obviously we haven't seen Starfield yet, but clearly that's their baby or whatever.
Yeah.
If you're gonna let go of one of them, Fallout's it, because I think that's the one that A-team has the weakest grip on.
And there's also a proven studio that can do it already. No one's proven that they can make Elder Scrolls.
No, I wouldn't trust Elder Scrolls with somebody else.
No,
really.
that's what the A-team should be doing.
We'll see what Avowed is.
I mean, it's true. Arguably, Bethesda's A-team should just be making the Elder Scrolls, in my opinion. When they finish six, they should start right on the next one.
I mean, I'm not going to argue with Starfield because that's
it
looks
in my interesting,
wheelhouse.
And I'm sure I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah, we don't really know anything about it, do we?
No, still.
But yeah, like the fact that it's going to take. I mean, by the time Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, you're going to be probably looking at least 15 years since Skyrim. Like, that's a generation.
Imagine
that's
that.
A human, not even a hardware generation. That's a human generation.
Think about that. You played Skyrim, you were 15.
Now you're 30.
You're playing the sequel when you're 30.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's Kingdom Hearts time.
It's almost to the point. Good thing that they're
and I'll tell you this much.
Games,
I'll tell you this much. That game's combat better be fucking great.
You know it's not gonna be.
Of course not. It's gonna be the same thing. Like we're gonna be lucky if it's not secretly on Gamebryo running some shell of another engine around it.
Do you think they should make Elder Scrolls smaller? Because I hear stories of people that are like, you know what? I just played Skyrim last week, and I found something that I had not found after I had played 400 hours of the game or whatever.
I played it again last year, and I played Fallout 3 again, too.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, because I've tried to play Fallout 3 a few times, and I bounced right off it, and I finally got back into it last year. But yeah, Skyrim. I found some stuff in Skyrim I'd never seen, but part of it was because I think it was added for some stuff was added. I couldn't tell it was something that was added and something that I'd never seen before because I've seen a lot of Skyrim.
Yeah.
I think Skyrim's about the right size.
Yeah.
But I just want, as long as you take me somewhere new, and again, it's kind of hard to sort of argue with how Elder Scrolls Online has really expanded the world and showed you a lot of different places and stuff. I just wish it was more fun to play.
Me too.
But. Yeah, I mean, I hope this is true. For a long time, we thought we were never going to get another Bethesda or Obsidian Fallout game because they were so mad at each other.
That is interesting how they're both under the same roof now.
Yeah, now you're kind of now Microsoft's just sort of like, okay, kiss and make up.
Pretty much. It's like bringing the two kids together and you make them sit face to face and work it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it could be very lucrative. I mean, if you let Obsidian make Fallout 5, you've got another 10+ million seller there that you didn't have before. So I think I'm totally okay with it. I think it's big for Fallout New Vegas. I think they should do more.
I think it's big for the fan base too. The fan base is going to react very well to Obsidian being brought back on this. And if you tell them Obsidian's going to make Fallout from now on, awesome.
And they're there. They can work together on the game still. Yeah. Todd Howard can do a call once a month with them or something like that and be like, well, that doesn't really fit.
They can do that. And
that does fit.
They can pretend to write things down and they can do whatever the hell they want.
Just get his rubber stamp out and stamp it and be like, okay, we're good to go. I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I really don't think they're going to make a Fallout New Vegas 2. I just don't.
No, I think that's just what you're calling it because it's the second Obsidian Fallout.
Yeah. And it may be a way for them to dance around the idea of, you know what, you should be letting us make Fallout 5.
Yeah. And maybe you don't call it Fallout 5. Maybe you call it Fallout whatever the place it's set is. But whatever it is, it's going to be Fallout 5.
The next Fallout.
Because it's not like Bethesda's going to get around to Fallout 5
we're not going to see it.
soon.
Otherwise, we're never going to see another one.
Yeah.
I may be dead before another Fallout comes out.
And I think it would be smart to call it Fallout 5.
Yeah.
But like they may not.
Yeah.
That might be
just out of respect.
That might be a sticking point for Bethesda.
That's true. Which they're going to have to get over it. Because it's just what's best for them and best for their company. But anyway, that's the latest on the Fallout franchise.
And it ain't their company anymore.
Yeah, it's true. I definitely like Fallout more than you do. I think that's one franchise where I enjoyed a little bit more.
The modern ones, yeah. I mean, I love Fallout from back in the day, but like, I think I like Fallout 3. I still like Fallout 3. I really don't like Fallout 4. Just lost me completely.
I really enjoyed it, but it was a little more shootery.
It was,
which makes sense for me to like it a little more than.
It's fine, yeah. I don't like that very much. I didn't think the shootery and stuff really gelled properly, but my main thing was I thought the story was incredibly boring. I was not compelled by any of the narrative, and I thought I wanted that game to have like a Mass Effect style dialogue choice system forever, and then they just did it wrong.
Yeah,
like so many of those choices have nothing to do with what the character then says, and like it feels like you're working blind half the time with that. It just didn't work.
And the dominoes don't really fall either.
No, they don't.
It's like the decisions that you make don't really have a big impact on the overall story arc.
And like it doesn't even try to trick you into thinking you do. It's like at least you make an effort to fool me like the BioWare games do, but like no, it didn't really do that.
Try.
Either.
Yep. So anyway, that's the latest on Fallout. Think we'll hear anything about that at E3? I think it's too early. If they're just in preliminary talks.
Get Hellblade out E3 first. Like this, you got a first wave of shit to do first. Like don't worry about stuff that's 4 years out.
Which isn't that far away at this point. Starfield.
No,
we're starting to get a little hype for it.
I hope.
Yep.
We'll play that instead of Pokemon in November. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. Because I'll be honest, like I played enough Pokemon with Arceus. Like I don't think I'm going to be ready to play it again in like 4 months. I don't know.
It's a little more than 4 months, but
yeah, I guess you're right. March,
like 8
April,
months.
May, June, July. Yeah, you're right. That's true. Okay, maybe I would be then, but probably not.
I know it doesn't seem like it, but we're only 2 months into this year.
I know, because so much has happened in the first 2 months already. So many games have been released.
A lot of stuff came out.
Did you guys watch Dossier?
Do you remember when Dying Light came out?
Yeah,
that was like
I know.
3 weeks ago.
It feels like it was like months ago. And I don't know if you've seen, March is insane. There are 10 legitimately big games coming out in March.
Are you
so,
counting Shadow Warrior 3?
I'm gonna have to pass on it. I actually wouldn't mind giving it a go, but I'm not.
That thing's got pretty good reviews. I was shocked.
I think it's an underrated franchise. I have a friend in Philly who loves it. Like for whatever reason, it's one of his favorite franchises.
I remember the first one on Mac. I played it on Mac back in like the 90s, back in the day. Not too politically correct.
No, they couldn't make that game now. It's really like a Doom clone, really, at this point.
Well, I think it was built on the Duke Nukem engine back at the time.
Vincent actually asked a good question. Is Obsidian doing too much? Because it's working on Avowed, Outer Worlds 2, and it's still working on Grounded.
Mm-hmm. Obsidian's a bigger company than you think.
Yeah.
They got a lot of teams in there.
That's still a lot on the plate, though.
It is, but I think that would be something that, like, look, on a 20-year time scale, anything is faster than what Bethesda can do. So it wouldn't surprise me if basically once the team that's doing Avowed finishes that, you put them on Fallout.
Yeah, to Vince's point, I believe anything Obsidian does with Fallout would wait until after those projects are wrapped up.
We probably wouldn't see that Fallout until after Elder Scrolls.
Yeah,
that's better than waiting another 6 years after Elder Scrolls.
I'll tell you what, though.
Like a year after Elder Scrolls.
If they do make the decision that Obsidian is going to make the Fallout games going forward, I also wouldn't be surprised if Outer Worlds 2 is canned, and they're like, no, you're making Fallout 5.
No, I don't think so.
Really?
No, I think we'll still get Outer Worlds 2.
Okay. We'll see. All right, let's move on.
I hope we do, because I think a sequel to Outer Worlds could be something really special. And you could have that team sort of alternating Outer Worlds, Fallout, the way Bethesda would alter Starfield, Elder Scrolls.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. We're going to talk next about the future of Lego video games. WB Games just lost the exclusive license for Lego video games. We've already heard rumors that Take-Two has signed the IP for a series of sports games. Visual Concepts, I believe, is making a soccer game.
Yeah.
There's a couple other ones that are in the works. So right now, everything Lego seems like it's up in the air. And one thing I'm willing to admit right now is that I am a complete noob when it comes to Lego. The only connection I have with Lego is every Christmas when I buy stuff for my nieces and nephews. But otherwise, I don't know much about it. I'm pretty ignorant to Legos and the pricing of Lego and what sets really sell well and like what properties resonate with Lego fans. And I know you have a great understanding of it. So what do you see in the future for Lego games? What do you think is going to happen with the IP? Do you think that they're just going to have like 20 different partners all making different games? How do you think it's all going to play out?
I think they're going to stick with TT Games for like the core stuff. And then I think they'll branch out for like the sports thing. I'm sure is a separate license. TT Games seems to be sort of locked into the licensed and theme driven stuff. So they're making the stuff that Lego has licenses for: Star Wars, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Ninjago, which is an internal, they own that. That's their own creation, that kind of thing. And then you've got like Lego Universe or whatever was a different team. That was a different, different license. Lego Sports is clearly a different license. Like they clearly have a lot of leeway in what they can, Lego as a brand is not a singular license for video games. So I think that will probably continue the way it has been. They're sort of branching out to try to like expand things. The Lego Sports thing may indicate that they're trying to do some kind of Lego Sports subline in the main toys. That can be hard to. Lego is the anti-Ubisoft, and that like nothing leaks, almost nothing.
Yeah, it
leaks.
is really crazy.
The fact that Optimus Prime set leaked a couple weeks ago is very unusual.
Unheard of.
You don't usually, if you're hearing about a Lego thing, it's because they're going to announce it in like an hour.
Okay.
Stuff goes up the day of. You get emails sometimes, and it's just like, oh, this happened. It's already up for sale on Lego.com. Like, just it's already there. And then like that stuff sells really. Star Wars stuff sells ridiculously well. Marvel stuff sells ridiculously well. The rumor continues that they got the Transformers license. It's coming in. And like individual building, like Lego Worlds and Lego Universe and stuff, like they do well. Like that's good stuff for like younger kids. Like that, sort of a Minecraft alternative seems to be sort of where they sit with that. Or if you don't want to let your kids on Roblox, for God's sake. The sports games is a weird move. Like I don't know whether if I guess you could argue there isn't a lot of like sort of arcade accessible non-licensed sports things that like maybe you would want, like sort of just like a Mario stuff. Like if you're not getting a Mario sport, you could theoretically do a Lego version of that and sort of like get like a Mario Strikers or a Mario Baseball All-Stars out of it. That kind of thing. Like arcade accessible family style multiplayer sports games. Like there's probably a market in there for that. I'm curious to see what they come up with for that. If it's going to be like dedicated for like Lego baseball, Lego football, Lego soccer, or whatever, or if it's going to be like a Wii Sports thing where it's like a collection of mini game things. I don't know what they're going to do with that. Be interesting to see if they can hold the personality through that.
Lego playing sports to me seems awkward. I actually talked about this on Good Morning Gaming, that just the way that the Lego characters move. Because they have so few points of articulation, like they just move kind of awkwardly. I just wonder how that translates over to
in animation. They just move however they need to move. Like there's a lot of squash and stretch with them. Like if you watch the Lego Movie and stuff, like they just move however they need to move.
Oh, so you think they'll just not follow the toys as closely?
Yeah, like in the Lego movies, like they mostly go with kind of the Lego articulate. But if they need to bend their arm to pick something, like they just do it. It's like Toy Story.
Yeah, doing it real time in a game though, I just wonder how that'll.
I mean, it's the animation of a Lego character is pretty much a solved problem.
Yeah,
like they can do whatever you need them to do.
Okay,
they squash and stretch just fine.
Okay.
The question is like, what's the hook beyond? It's like like get a bunch of yellow Lego men playing baseball or soccer or whatever. Like okay, and
what?
Like,
yeah.
Like that's sort of my
yeah. Is that enough? It's probably not.
Yeah, it's without the licenses, I don't know if that's a huge draw unless it's just you want a sports game that isn't going to be overcomplicated like the official licensed professional stuff is.
If they did somehow get the licenses, and you had Lego-fied versions of pro sports players,
I mean like
that might actually
like Lego FIFA would be a thing,
or Lego NFL where you have Patrick Mahomes Lego, and
that I don't think will ever happen. Yeah, because NFL is too limited.
It's too complicated.
It's not too complicated. It's too limited. It's only the appeal's only America.
Yeah,
and Lego's going to want to do something worldwide.
The NFL can be pretty douchey.
Yeah, but even I don't even think there'll be an American football one because it's just one country.
Yeah, like it's the biggest country though.
No, FIFA's bigger. I mean,
I mean
bigger.
The country that likes football is the biggest country that buys the most games.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's going to translate into worldwide sales that Lego wants as a licensor. Yeah. Because Lego is not American.
Although I was pretty shocked to see that Madden was like the 3rd best-selling game last year. Mm-hmm. That was shocking to me. That franchise has come back for some reason, and I have no idea why. Because it's not become better.
Yeah, it seems to be very word of mouth proof.
Worse, and it's selling better. It's really weird. But anyway, maybe.
I mean, the bread and butter of Lego games is going to remain these licensed things to me.
And you think TT is going to keep doing these?
I don't see why you'd take that away from them. They still do it really well.
Aren't they owned by Warner Brothers, WB Games?
I thought they got bought by some. Did they get bought by somebody else?
I think they are owned by WB.
They were. Did they? Yeah, I don't know.
And if that's the case, then how does that work, right? Because WB just made a big stink about how it lost the Lego license. Mm-hmm. So if it thinks it's actually going to keep making the games...
Lost the Lego license for what, though?
It didn't say. It just said it lost the Lego exclusivity.
I don't know. Like, that could mean anything.
What else is TT Games going to do? It's all it's done for the last, 15 years.
Losing Lego exclusivity is not the same thing as losing the license. Like, that just means that other companies are going to make Lego games.
Oh, okay. So you would say TT will keep doing what it's doing while other companies are just providing their takes on it.
They lost the movie rights.
Oh,
That's
okay.
it. They actually chose to do that.
Okay.
After the poor performance of the last 2 Lego pictures, Warner Brothers has let their movie rights to the toy property lapse.
What happened to that? Because the first Lego movie was legendary.
The problem was that they put out another bad one between those. They put out the Ninjago movie, which the kids liked, but it did not have the appeal that Lego movie did. And they took too long to make the sequel to the Lego movie.
Was it good? I never even watched it.
Neither did I. I don't know.
That says it all, doesn't it?
The time had passed. Basically.
If you didn't watch it.
They got that Lego Batman movie out, and that was all right. But
yeah, that was pretty good. I think I watched that on a flight.
Yeah, but they basically had to strike faster when the iron was hot with that Lego. The Lego movie sequel was something like 5 years later. It was just too late.
It did seem like it was quite a distance between the
two.
And
around that time was also when you had Spider-Man kind of, Into the Spider-Verse sort of changed what people wanted from that kind of Sony animation and stuff, and it's a whole different thing. Lego movie was a moment in time, and they were never able to recapture that. That was the problem.
Yeah.
So they don't have the movie license anymore, but I'm sure TT Games still has the games just fine.
And someone said in chat that Warner does indeed still own TT. So.
Yeah. And they have whatever deals are in place. Like Warner doesn't. I mean, they're still making Star Wars, and Disney owns that. So.
Yeah.
And they're still making Jurassic Park stuff, and Universal owns that. It's there doesn't seem to be a lot of company line problems when it comes to the licenses, because I think Lego is the one who controls that, because they're the ones with those licenses, and Lego's just you have the license to make Lego games, but we want you to make the things we want you to make, and part of that is these licenses, and I hope that ends up extending to Transformers at some point. Right.
It seems like this is going to open the door to more Lego games, which there should be more.
Yeah, well,
think about it. We're getting one Lego game.
There are a lot of Lego games,
and
I don't think this changes anything about the
really?
Lego games. No,
you don't think we'll get more console Lego games from this?
No.
Well, we're already getting some. We're getting the sports games.
Yeah, but that is a new move. This a new brand. Because
you don't think there's going to be more new moves?
There might be, but I don't think it's going to change. It doesn't mean we're going to get any more of the games like this. I think we're going to get weird spin-off stuff like Lego Racers and
right, but they're still Lego games.
Sure, but I don't care about them.
Yeah.
But TT Games is a particular a boutique industry of their own. That they're going to make all those games like that. You're going to get Lego license slapped on another thing, like a sports game or a racing game or a fighting game. Who needs that?
It's actually, you could build a pretty cool mechanic where as you beat the other opponent, the bricks fall off, and then when they get to the point where they're incapacitated, you win the fight.
Yeah, or building, Minecraft definitely has made, I think Lego Universe and Lego Worlds, and I mean, really the only...
There's a lot of opportunity, I feel
really
like,
the only
IP.
Lego, kind of crash and burn has been the Toys to Life thing. That just didn't last.
Yeah.
But that was also partly because that fad ended.
It did okay while the fad was a
all
thing.
Right, yeah. I thought it was a good game.
Mm-hmm.
It was a cool way to do things.
Lego Dimensions.
Involved I still have them all in the closet downstairs. They're all
unopened and
no, most of them are open. I played them. I just don't know what to do with them.
That stuff has not kept any value.
Oh, there's no
I had
value
kept
at
a
all.
lot of those characters from Disney Infinity, and I had all that stuff boxed up, and I went and checked like eBay, and like you can't even give that stuff away.
You're a long way from when that Boba Fett was worth like $60.
Yep. I ended up just giving all that stuff away to my nieces and nephews.
I got rid of all my Skylanders stuff.
I gave away all that stuff too. I have a nephew who actually still plays it.
Well, the worst thing was I had so many Skylanders things I gave to my sister to give to my nephew, and then my nephew outgrew Skylanders before like she could finish giving it all to him. So now there's like more Skylanders. So like the Skylanders have been like kind of passed on to like other people and other like those. There's still Skylanders in that garage waiting to find a home. Like it's just there was way too much.
I still have some stuff in my closet.
They just flooded that too hard, way too hard. It was very silly.
Yep.
And we'll see. You know, I do feel like the new Star Wars Lego game is going to probably raise the bar for what these things are supposed to be. So we'll see how that goes. I would imagine the next step for that would be to do a big revamp, similar sort of saga game for Jurassic Park, because that's going to end this year.
Well, there already was Lego Jurassic Land, I guess is what it's called.
Yeah, but like I think you do like a one of all 6 movies. Yeah. You know, once the new one comes out.
Here's a trailer for it here. I had forgotten about this, actually. And we even have B-roll sitting on the TriCaster of it, and I had forgotten about it. So there was one already, but yeah. I mean, that IP right now is pretty red hot. It'd be kind of silly not to make a sequel to this.
Yeah.
You probably already have a lot of assets already just sitting around, and you have a good working relationship with the studio who makes the films, probably. It just makes too much sense. So as a big Lego fan, are you auspicious on the future of Lego games?
I mean, I haven't played a Lego game in years.
I haven't either.
No, I don't really care.
Yeah,
I'm going to play Skywalker Saga, obviously, but like those games, I mean, I just felt like I'd done it all at a certain point.
Agreed. There was the last one I played, the character select screen, I'm not exaggerating, I think there were like 60 characters to
easily.
choose from.
Yeah.
It was just this grid of heads that was like gigantic.
I think the Star Wars one has like 100.
Really?
It's got every character you could possibly. I mean, Yaddle is in that trailer.
That's
like
true.
Any character
That's
you can think of is in this game. There's no way. But look, Lego games do not need to really evolve. I mean, they're for kids. There's always gonna be more kids that love Lego, want to play these games. I don't need them to constantly innovate and appeal to me. It's fine. Like the Star Wars one looks like they're reinventing the wheel enough for me to be interested again. Anyway, beyond that, like I don't know, just keep doing what you're doing. Like even the Ninjago one was pretty good. Yeah, really. That's probably the last one I played. I got it for like $5.
Seems like my nieces like Ninjago more than the nephews.
Yeah, Ninjago it crosses all lines.
Does it?
Yeah, it seems.
I've never seen it or watched any of it.
I mean, it didn't exist when we were kids, so but it's ninjas. People love ninjas. It's ninjas and mechs. Like who doesn't like that?
Yeah. You know, pretty good combo. All right, so there you go. That's the latest on Lego video games. I do think we'll get some more games. Like I don't think we have to wait like 6 years in between Lego games.
No, anymore. I think the Star Wars game has been a weird anomaly, but I'm sure there's Jurassic Park's coming. You got. There's a point at which they probably are going to put out some kind of Harry Potter thing, or at least like when Fantastic Beasts
it makes too
finishes
much sense.
Up.
Yeah.
And like there's other stuff you could do. They've got more and more crossover stuff happening that makes it interesting to think about. Like, Transformers want to be interesting if they get that license for sure. It seems like they did. And there's always my dream licensed Lego game, which will probably never happen. But I would kill somebody for Lego James Bond.
Oh.
Because the music is so key in how those games work. Like, you've got great music in those movies, and you could do like 6 of the best movies, and like you tell me you wouldn't love playing From Russia with Love in Lego with the music and like a little Lego Sean Connery and all this. That would be great. That would be a great thing.
Someone in chat said Lego Tetris.
Lego Tetris. You know else I'd like to play? Lego Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
They do have that license.
What about Lego Minecraft?
I feel like they've done that.
Have they?
I mean,
aren't they competitors, really?
There are Lego Minecraft sets.
Oh, there are?
In real life, yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know
They've had that for years.
Oh, wow. I had no idea.
They got there's also the big question of like, will they ever do Lego Mario as a game?
Yeah. Well, they did that.
And then the Lego Sonic the Hedgehog set just came out.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on with the Lego.
Crazy.
Back to the Future, they did.
It seems like the last 10 years, Lego has just exploded.
Yeah.
Like they were around when we were kids, but to me, they were just one of dozens of toys that I like playing with.
Well, they have just expanded and like kind of upped the ante in terms of the complexity of the high level sets and stuff. I mean, I got one of my only birthday gifts was that new AT-AT, the Ultimate Collector Series AT-AT, which is like $700.
Dude, he has a Star Destroyer downstairs.
Yeah.
It's
like 4 feet long. Yeah.
it's gigantic
But
and like that tall. Is that whole thing solid with Lego, or is it hollow on the inside?
About half. There's a superstructure under it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of frame.
How much does it weigh?
Like 8 pounds.
Oh, that's not
8,
bad.
9 pounds.
I thought it would weigh way more than that.
I don't think it weighs much more than that.
Okay.
It's not nothing, but it's liftable. Here's the thing that cracks me about the AT-AT. So it's a huge set, like tons. It's like $700. Thousands and thousands of pieces. It's like 4 feet tall. It's like to scale with the figures. It's like the figures it comes with. I don't know. I haven't built it because I don't know where I'm going to put it.
Where will you put it?
I'll probably put it on one of the shelves in the front room, like the library in the front room.
That one's worth displaying for sure.
Yeah, but the thing that cracks me up about it is you look at the box and the little age recommendation. It says 18+. Can you imagine like an 18 plus
you need
Lego
a high
set? What does that
school
mean?
diploma to complete this Lego set.
Like a 16-year-old just wouldn't be able to handle it.
GED isn't good enough either. You got to have the real McCoy. That's funny.
This is for college kids. It's like maybe the price is for like adults.
Exactly. Maybe those ratings are like who can afford it.
Yeah. I've cooled way down on the Lego set buying because there's just not enough room to put things in. But I get the big ones now and then. They're fun. It's like a Zen thing. You have to kind of zone out and just sort of focus on this thing. I will say there's this site called Venado.com that does like bootleg Lego stuff, and they take like fan made build things and turn them into they basically
sets that you can buy.
They're in China. They're cheaper. So that's like they're like Chinese. I think they make them in China, and like you order them and they send them over in these nondescript bags, and but they make these huge sets that Lego would never be able to make, and they cost like half of what Lego. So I gotta find the one.
I mean, couldn't they just sell the bricks? And then just put like the instructions on the internet.
That is what they do.
And then you can just build an AT-AT or a Star Destroyer.
That is exactly what.
So that's a way to skirt around the IP and the licensing issues.
Yes, they send. That's
you what they do.
Yeah, they send you
They're
that.
like, so here's these bricks. We're not going to tell you what to do with them, but there is this thing on the internet that you can go to.
Right. That's pretty much what happens.
Yeah.
And I have an AT-AT that does that, and I actually the problem is that there is no organization. So Lego sets come with numbered bags, and the instructions tell you now open bag 1, now 2, and that's where you find all these things. So otherwise, if you have, because before they started doing that, you had to basically spend time organizing all the parts, and the Venado stuff and the bootleg stuff comes with no organization. So you just have to open all these parts and organize them first, and if you're missing any, you got help yet. And so I got stalled out on the AT-AT they do. So especially because you're going through a PDF and the instructions are great. So, but this just came out. This came out this week. It is a Lego Minas Tirith by that bootleg site. You can see that.
Wow!
So this set is $6,000, and it contains 99,524 pieces. This thing is 4 feet tall.
What's the age rating on that one?
There is no age rating. It's bootleg shit. Like no one. There's.
So wait, that's bootleg and it's still $6,000.
Yes.
Dang.
It weighs 92 kilograms.
Oh my gosh.
92 kilograms.
You have to build a foundation to build it.
The foundation is also made of brick. 335 bags.
Oh my gosh. That's like a year-long project.
116 by 231 by 131 centimeters.
Wow.
Gigantic.
Yeah.
And you're
not getting it.
No,
right?
God, no. God.
You never know.
Because here's what I just said. None of the bags are numbered. It's you would have to organize all those pieces by shape and color and type first. That would take a month
alone
before you could even build it.
And that is not fun.
And then you've built it, and now you have 100-pound Minas Tirith. For what? What do you do with that?
I don't know. Nerd out. That's about all you can do.
Yeah, and then when you're done nerding out, what do you do with it?
Throw it away.
You can't get rid of that.
No,
you can't
nobody
give that to
wants
someone.
it.
No one wants that. What are you gonna? Because what the appeal is to building something but who wants to take that apart and then build it again?
Yeah.
It's nonsense.
Yep.
It's nonsense.
Okay, there you go. I knew this is why I want to talk about this with Matt, because he knows what's going on in the Lego scene. And I think if you just left this conversation feeling like you don't know what's going on, you might want to listen to it again, because that was the 411. All right, let's move on to our
People
last
in the chat are asking about a link to that. Just Google Vonado, Vonado, Minas Tirith, and you'll find it.
Imagine if you have kids, though, and you're getting sick of spending $200, $250 on these things, and you're like, you know what? If I can buy it from some bootlegger for $50 or whatever, that's a game changer.
They don't make duplicates of the Lego sets themselves. They make like
the instructions?
they make generic bricks in the counts you need to make fan-made things.
Gotcha. So it's not the official plans.
They are not official plans, no.
Because that's where they had to draw the line, I guess.
But there are really elaborate 3D modeling programs that you let people build their own Lego sets and put the instructions that, you output the instructions the exact same way the Lego instructions look. So there's almost no difference. And there's places you can just go and either download them for free or pay like the people who design them like $5 and you get a download link for it. And then you can just gather the pieces. That's how they did earlier, long ago, before they made an official one. That's how I built a Super Star Destroyer.
Oh.
Because somebody basically put up things like, if you get the pieces from 2 Star Destroyer sets and these other extra pieces, you follow these instructions, you can build a Super Star Destroyer. So I did that.
Okay.
So that's how kind of that worked. But this place, the bricks are like a third the cost of a normal Lego set brick would be. But because they sell these giant sets, there's still thousands of dollars if you buy the big ones.
Crazy.
Or you can get like a small, like a one that would be like $30 or $40 at Target. You could get from that site for like $15.
Okay.
So that's the appeal, really.
Okay.
Also, they all don't say Lego on little pegs. Little pegs on. They all say Lego on them on the Legos. They don't. They're just smooth, which is very weird. Of course, but it's very weird.
Because you're just used to having that.
You're used to having that little texture on it. Yeah, exactly.
Totally. Okay. We're going on to it. Here's the irony of this. Is that this story broke during the show last week. We didn't have much time to talk about it, and here we are trying to talk about it in this week's show, and we don't have much time to talk about it again. And that is that Call of Duty is going to take a year off in 2024. And in fact, the game, or actually it's 2023, it won't be coming back till 2024, because the game that was supposed to be made by Treyarch for next year, Treyarch has now been pulled off on some other free-to-play project, and there's not going to be a proper Call of Duty released next year. How do you think this happened? Do you think that this was Activision Blizzard being like, you know what, we just got purchased by Microsoft? We're not going to work on a game again because our teams are being ground to a pulp. Do you think this was Microsoft, some way of strategically trying to plan the Call of Duty franchise better in the future? Why do you think that this is happening, Matt?
I think it's probably both of those things.
Like a mix of the two?
It has felt for a while that like the Call of Duties were kind of getting like some kind of weird critical mass thing where it's just like, are you just out of ideas or steam or what? Like it was so confused and so like it felt like everybody that was making those games just was out of enthusiasm for it. And who can blame them? It's been a grind of 15 years at this point. And then I'm sure Microsoft, when they bought them, they're like, oh my God, like let's just hang on, everybody just take a year off and we'll regroup on this.
But they're making them make some stupid free-to-play game when Warzone 2 is supposed to come out at the end of this year. Why would they do that?
I don't know. In that case, I'm sure it's just sunk cost. Like that was something they're working on and it's there, so you might as well put it out.
Do you admire Microsoft for being willing to turn its back on at least 20 million sales at $60 to $70 a pop?
I don't know about admire, but I think Microsoft does recognize that like if the first major release out of the gate from after they've purchased this thing is some kind of subpar shovelware, they're never gonna live it down. The first Call of Duty released under the Microsoft banner has got to be a great game.
Do you think that there might be part of that playing into it, where it's a part of the deal and the checks that they're going to have to go through with governing bodies? Does this solve any problems for that?
I don't think so.
No? I'm just wondering.
Timing
certainly seems a little convenient.
I don't think so. Like the governing bodies are not going to pay attention to what the IPs are and what they're doing with that. They're not going to understand that. They still think Resident Evil is called the Resident of Evil Creek. That wouldn't get that nitty gritty as far as I know. It would be more of a controlling the machinations of the industry thing, which Activision doesn't. So there's just once the FTC figures out that like Activision doesn't own the exclusive tools to make first-person shooters, that argument's going to be over. Like it's a formality at this point. This is, I think, more of a thing where Microsoft knows that you're just never going to hear the end of it if that first Call of Duty under Microsoft's watch isn't great.
Yeah.
Like, they have to put a quality product out. There might be a thing where it's like, hey, that's one less thing we got to put on PlayStation before that contract runs out, because a lot can change in 2 years. But we'll see.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to watch. I do wonder if a lot of the stuff that Microsoft is doing is for show now, and then, as you said, you wait a couple years, and are these governing bodies going to come back and be like, "Oh, hey, you're breaking the rules now"?
Well, there is no rule on that. That's.
Well, Pactor seems to think that there are fines that can be levied if they
breach the contract, sure, but nothing that would stop the acquisition.
Right. Well, I mean, they're going to wait to do this stuff until the acquisition is complete.
Yeah, but I've said before, like, once those contracts are done, all bets are off, no matter how much rhetoric they want to throw around about, like, oh, we're going to keep it on PlayStation for it's a PlayStation franchise. It's like, come on, guys. Like, you might keep Warzone on there, but the yearly release, like, I don't know about that.
I struggle to understand that.
Why would you pay the amount of money you've paid for them if you're going to keep it on your competitor? Give the game away.
I agree with you. Pactor will fight us tooth and nail on that, though.
Pactor has thought for 2 generations you're going to plug the next PlayStation into the side of a television. So
that's true. Or it was going to be built into the television.
Yeah.
So
still not there.
Nope, still not there.
Never going to be.
I don't know about never, but it's definitely taken a lot longer.
Might not be in my lifetime. I mean, like, every time someone says something like that, the next system that Sony puts out sells even better.
Yeah.
Like, it would be selling even more if, like, they could get enough out. But, like, there is no lack of demand for console hardware. It just, like, there's no reason to build them into the TV. Yeah. And, like, to do that you couldn't put that PlayStation 5 hardware set into a television. That doesn't make any sense.
Imagine the fan that you need in that thing
to
keep it cool. You couldn't even fit it. You physically couldn't fit the hardware in a TV. Unless the TV looks like the TVs we watched in, like, the 80s.
Yeah. No, you need to go back to projection screens.
Or back when TVs were built into, like, a record player. Remember that? And they were like a piece of furniture.
Mm-hmm. With a VCR on the bottom.
That's great.
Yeah. Where's my wood paneled PlayStation 5, Sony?
Well, it's funny they remade the Atari VCS. Did they make a wood grain version of it?
Probably.
I think they did actually. Yeah.
Maybe that's what the Amico needs.
Rosencrantz is asking, are they not going to put it on Game Pass? Call of Duty.
That's a good question. I mean, that could be your advantage for at least until you write that contract out. It's like, well, you can buy it on PlayStation, or you can just play it here
for $13.
For nothing, for a subscription you might already have.
Yeah,
kind of thing,
It's true. And then Vincent chimes in. He says, according to chatter, I don't know what that means. Rumors, I guess, floating around. Activision knew this could happen. Activision knew this could happen, and it's a big part of why they're selling.
I think more of a part of why they're selling is they don't want to clean up their own mess.
Right.
But, I mean, it's part of the mess, but bigger mess is the whole...
Right, I think there's...
The bigger mess is the whole employee killed themselves because you harassed them into it thing.
Yeah.
There's a whole...
I mean, there are a lot of messes, apparently. Yeah. And now, hearing about this Call of Duty stuff, it feels like Activision Blizzard was hanging on by its fingernails the last couple years, and they just finally let go.
Yeah. And I appreciate Greg Miller's commentary about Bobby Kotick.
Well, what did he say? F Bobby Kotick?
Yeah, at the awards
at the
show
DICE Awards. Yeah. I'm sure there were people in the audience there who did not appreciate that.
Well, I think they can go fuck themselves too.
Exactly. Okay, we talked about this a little bit last week, so I'm not going to belabor it. I just wanted to bring it back up because it's a big story. The best-selling franchise is not happening next year.
For the first time since 2007.
Right after a company bought the company that makes it for like $70 billion. So it's a big story.
I mean, you got to reorganize a little bit. Like, you got to, regroup and figure out what you're, I mean, you can't deny as the one who's played more of them than I have, like, there's a point at which you're just sort of like, this franchise is on fumes.
Oh, it is. I mean, I have struggled to get through, if the games have a campaign, I've struggled to get through the last couple campaigns.
There's just no verve to them anymore.
It's just, it doesn't matter what they do anymore, because it's not
you know what I'm hoping is that someone up in Microsoft brass was a big fan of Infinite Warfare.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Bring that shit back.
Seriously.
I want to play that again.
Because it seems like it doesn't matter what they do. It's not like the games have become less bombastic. It's just I'm desensitized to it now.
Yeah.
Like, the last Call of Duty Vanguard, you play the campaign, it's insane. You're flying out of a plane, and there's, planes going down, and there's people on fire flying next to you, and you hit the water, and there's a dude dying next to you.
But it still feels like they're chasing the dragon of what Infinity War did back in the day.
Yeah.
Like, no one's really topped Modern Warfare 1, 2, and Black Ops 1 and 2.
Yeah, it's lost the ability to surprise. And I will say this, I do admire that they haven't stooped to the point of, you know what, we're just going to make sure we have at least one thing, like no Russian in every game. Because they could easily
For a while, there was a little bit of that.
Kind of, but still nothing to the level of no Russian.
No.
Like, it still is the most shocking moment in Call of Duty games.
Yeah, but, like, you have to, no Russian was sort of one-upping what the atomic bomb in the first Modern Warfare, and I think that's the moment you want to lean towards more than anything. You want to lean towards this thing, the shocking moment. Doesn't have to be ethically shocking, but it should be shocking in terms of like, oh, I didn't think they were going to go there with this thing. You know, the shocking the reason that the atomic bomb is shocking in Modern Warfare is at the time there was that whole thing where like all the games that did Modern Warfare and Rainbow Sixty stuff was like they worked pretty hard to make sure nothing happened that could take it out of our world to some degree. It was sort of that element of like, oh, maybe that's happening somewhere out there. Yeah. It's like, well, no, like no one blew a nuke up in the Middle East, so like clearly this takes place in some other alternate world. And also, it killed one of the three main characters you were playing as for the whole game, and you had to watch him die through his own eyes, and you're like, oh, that was different.
Intense,
like that was not a thing that they did back then. And then No Russian was more of like pushing the envelope on that. And like you can debate how successful that was or whatever, or you could say incredibly horrible things as a poll like Dave Jaffe did. But like you can't like lean into the shock value of that in the sense of like the fact that like gunning down civilians is a shocking thing to make someone do. You got to lean into the shock value of you have turned this narrative on its head. And that's what Modern Warfare 1 did that was so interesting. And they've never equaled that again.
Do. I mean, no
Russian was definitely the peak of the controversy of that, but I don't think they've ever topped that nuclear explosion as a holy shit moment. I'd like to see more of that, and I'd like to see more things, just little things. Like one of my big nice remembrances of back in the old days was being at that Microsoft press conference when they showed Modern Warfare. And the two guys in the ghillie suits stand up, and the whole audience gasped. Like no one knew they were there. Like it was so good, it was so perfect. And the guy stood up, and it was like, oh, like you can't even really hear it on the video of it. But like if you were there, that whole stadium reacted to it. And like little things like that, like lean into that.
High School.
Yeah, that was at the open stadium. I keep hitting the mic. Open stadium at Santa Monica when everything was down in Santa Monica for some stupid. Oh my god, what a terrible year that was. Yeah, that was 2007. Yeah. And that was a rough year.
It sure was for E3.
Just driving to hotel to hotel to hotel, and it's like, my God, you remember when you just walk across the hall?
Or just walk across like the way over to Ubisoft or whatever. Yeah.
But yeah, it was like that's the sort of thing I'd really be going back to the drawing board on that with like the old Infinity Ward games and how they worked and why they worked.
Yep.
I'd be getting Respawn on the horn unofficially.
Too late,
Those guys all go out drinking together. You know that.
Who knows? But anyway, there you go. That's
Vince will tell you anything.
If you get him drunk enough.
You buy him good enough whiskey.
He does love scotch. Pactor will get something out of him.
Oh, yeah. Pactor give him one of those $1,000 bottles of tequila, and that'll be the end of it.
Yep. So anyway, that's it on the latest update on Call of Duty, and that's it for GameFace 291. We do have time to maybe take a couple questions if you guys have them. Go at Sifted Games in the chat so we can find them easily. While we wait for you to add some questions into chat, I just want to remind you guys that this Saturday, Shane versus Elden Ring will be going down. Again, make sure you follow Sifted at Sifted Games on Twitter to know exactly the time that's going to happen. And I'm hoping that this will just be a normal Saturday occurrence. And I'll say this, I'll probably stream about an hour and a half, something like that. We'll see how it goes. I may get to an hour and I'll be like, this is all I can do for today. But I do want to say, come with positivity in your hearts. Come to help me. Come to give me pointers. Help me discover things that you've discovered playing Elden Ring or other From Software games. Let's make it a collaborative effort to get me through this game. This stream series may go on until I die. I'm not kidding. There's like 90 bosses in the game or whatever. It could literally last me for the rest of my life if I played an hour a week.
Yeah, I mean, already if you played as much as I played, you're looking at a year.
Right, exactly. So. There you go. So, Hopefully I'll see you guys all on Saturday here at the same spot, twitch.tv/SiftedGames. It should be a fun stream. JM Rain, making it rain as usual. I wish I could pop you up on the screen, but we'll have that back next week. But JM Rain handing out the tier 1 subs. Thank you. As always, man, you're amazing. Here's some questions. AJ the Legend Watson, going back to the discussion of easy modes, do you think it would satisfy all who care if the easy mode trophies or accomplishments distinguish the difference of what mode the game was played on? Yeah, I don't think anyone has a problem with that.
I don't think anyone playing easy mode would care either.
I don't think they'd care either. I don't think they'll be like salty if they're like they don't get trophies.
Yeah, say easy mode, you don't get any trophies.
Because that's the way it already works.
Yeah.
A lot of games already, if you play it on easy, you don't get trophies.
Yeah, there's
you have to play it on the default setting usually to get the trophy. So yeah, I think people would be totally fine with that. I would be fine with it. Yeah. And I wouldn't be salty.
I think most of the people that want to play the easy mode just want to see the game.
Yeah. And like a game like Elden Ring, a lot of the parts of it, you could turn it back on to normal difficulty. Yeah. And then you fight a boss, and if you're finally to the point where you're like, damn, I just don't have 3 more hours to fight this guy, put it on easy, beat the boss, move on.
Yeah.
Like,
don't get the trophy for that boss.
Right, you don't get the trophy. Totally cool with that. I think everyone would be cool with it. Yeah. There's a lot of easy ways to solve this. There's just some people that don't want it to be solved. Mm-hmm. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Call of Dookie. Where were you during our last discussion? Any more thoughts on Horizon Forbidden West? I haven't played it since... No, I did play it a little bit. But I haven't played it much since last week's show because I had to jump on Elden Ring. And Matt and I, we had it actually while we were playing Horizon. Mm. And personally, like, I played a little bit before I, like...
Yeah, I mean, I had to really force myself to let go of Horizon to move on to Elden Ring after it was a couple days after the show.
Yeah.
And originally I was waiting for like, oh, wait and start Elden Ring over on the Xbox, and then like Digital Foundry started talking about, it's like, oh, good luck. If you want to play it smooth, play the PS4 version on the PS5, which is ridiculous. I mean, I know that Demon's Souls is doing less in terms of the open world and stuff, but Demon's Souls the remake looks way better than Elden Ring, and it runs at 60 on PS5. I don't get it. I mean, I do get it because From has always been bad at the technical side.
Actually, you're right. Demon's Souls, the remake, looks way better than Elden Ring. Yeah. I mean, that was one of the first next-gen games
built for PS5.
I was like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, built for PS5. Like, Elden Ring has previous gen stuff. But like, again, just night and day. Like, there's no excuse for this game not running at 60 on the next-gen consoles.
I will never forget the first time a torch lit up a face of one of the enemies in that Demon's Souls remake. Yeah. I was, like, terrified and, like, excited at the same time. I was like, hot damn, okay, I get next gen now.
Yeah, it was good. And I mean, for someone who played Demon's Souls before, there was an element of like, oh, that's what that's supposed to look like.
Right. Yeah, because Demon's Souls on PS3, man, it was...
I mean, it's fun. I mean, going back to it was fun. Like, I remember, that was the only game I've ever backed out of a review on, because after like a night, I was like, oh, can't do this. I'm not going to get through this at all. And so, like, but going back to it, I went through and I'm like, it didn't die for like 4 hours until I got through like the third area, the third world or whatever. Mm-hmm. And, that was a big revelation. It was like, oh, I can play this now. Cool. Yeah. So yeah, it's fun to have that. But again, there are way better looking and more intensive games on PS5 that run way better than Elden Ring, and it's just unconscionable.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous that no one mentioned that in the reviews.
I mean,
any other game got hit. Horizon got knocked down to an 8 and stuff because it was like characters' faces were messed up in cutscenes. That doesn't even affect gameplay.
I know.
But this thing hitches every time you load a new area in the middle of a fight, and like no one cares. Okay,
the LOD and the drawing and the pop in.
Look,
on PS5,
I understand you don't want to deal with the Toxa Bros like on this thing. You just give it a high score and let the fucking world spin on. But like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
It does seem like there were different standards for those two games.
Also, I think you're right that there's an element. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I'm happy the score is so high because it's my second. That's the best second pick in the history of fantasy game draft. For sure.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It's like ridiculous. Like, should have been our first picks, frankly. Yeah. I mean, but like, so I'm glad it got scored so high because it worked for me. But like, there's just an element where I'm just like, you were probably right, or maybe I don't know who brought up like the idea that like at a certain point these games are so niche and so demanding. You just as an editor, you just hand it off to the guy on the team who does those games all the time, and like, this is the result.
Yeah.
Like, you're just gonna
get. And these people have been created over time.
Yeah.
Because it started maybe back at Demon Souls, but more likely at Dark Souls.
Yeah, Dark Souls was really where it started to hit what you consider critical mass. It's where it got discovered, frankly.
Yeah.
Because it was on multiple. It wasn't, Demon Souls was a PS3 exclusive, and Dark Souls was on everything.
Yep,
so.
that made a difference. Congrim1. If the new PlayStation subscription service gave you a discount on launch games, would it feel more enticing? Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah. I mean, it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
It's definitely more enticing. Would it convince me to subscribe over Game Pass?
Yeah, like the math
Probably
would
not.
have to work out. Like I'd have, because that gets interesting because like then you have to calculate how much you're saving over the course of a year, and that requires me to know how many exclusives are coming out that I want. Mm-hmm. I don't know. That's definitely an interesting. It
doesn't hurt.
In a stacked year, it would help, but the costs of those subscriptions are so high that you're already in.
$16 a month. That's a lot, man.
Yeah, I mean even the basic. I mean that's.
Dude, all subs are going up.
$120 a year.
I don't even notice, like every subscription system, the prices are like skyrocketing.
I mean, I guess we're paying more than that for Netflix already, huh?
Yeah, Netflix. Pac has been right about Netflix all along.
Yes,
it took a long time before it to show, but he was right.
Yes,
they're just now finally getting called for the fact that they're not making any money.
There's no revenue. What are you doing?
Yep. One last one.
It's not like Amazon. They can spend $1 billion on a Lord of the Rings show, and like doesn't matter because they got tons of other income.
They'll make it back in like 2 days. Not even, actually. Emperor Dread, thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome. We'll take one more question from Vincent. Oh, also thank you. This is for Vidya Games for Twitch Prime. Vincent, Guardians of the Galaxy is coming to Game Pass next week. That's great. That's great news. I didn't know that.
That's good.
Who benefits most from that? Xbox, who gets a Game of the Year contender, or Square Enix trying to salvage its underperforming game? I don't know if you saw this, but Square Enix.
I saw that.
Ragged on Guardians of the Galaxy.
Monetarily, Square Enix, because clearly they're getting paid to do that. Like that's how Game Pass works. Like Microsoft pays you what you think or what they think or whatever. What you agree on would be an equivalent of basically lost sales from it, right? And usually Microsoft is pretty generous in that regard. I think the people that's best for is us because it means we might get a shot at another Guardians game. Mm-hmm. Because anything
they could recoup some of the money.
Anything
that
they can bring more,
they're
stupid imaginary targets for revenue on this thing. Like, because I think that was a good one. I think they did a really good job on that game, and I would like to see that team get another shot.
I agree. It was the most underrated game from last year, in my opinion, or maybe underappreciated, underpurchased.
I mean, it got some nominations. It got recognized. It didn't win much, but it was recognized.
But it did not sell anywhere near. No. I mean, this is one time I probably would agree with Square Enix. Like, it should have sold better than it did.
Yeah, it definitely should have. But like, if you expected it to, you were out in left field.
Yeah.
Like I think it sold about what I expected it to. It deserved to sell way more.
Yeah.
But like, it had just too many things up against it, including everybody's sour taste about Avengers, which is Square's fault. So like, they want to find someone to blame for that. Don't blame Guardians of the Galaxy. Blame your mirror.
Yeah. We're going to have to stop it there. That's GameFace 291, an epic discussion on Elden Ring that may go down in the annals of video game journalism history. I mean, we talked about it for like an hour and a half, I think, or almost 2 hours.
Up there, yeah.
I don't know if we've ever talked about a game that long.
I can't remember.
And the reason I think it happened is because there are like these two perspectives on these games, and we're both in those different perspectives, and it just makes for, I think, a great discussion. I hope you guys agreed. Hope you enjoyed our discussion on Elden Ring. Don't forget, streaming on Saturday, Elden Ring, Shane versus Elden Ring Round 2. If you like what we're doing and you're listening to this show out on the wilds of the internet, whether you're on YouTube or you're listening to it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, where else are we? We're everywhere. If you're listening to the show out on any of those services and you like what we're doing, head to patreon.com/sifted and drop us a pledge. We need every dollar we can get. Our Patreon just continues to go down. I don't get it. The more content we create, our Patreon also goes down. It's really bizarre. But anyway, we need help. If you can help us, that would be great. At the very least, please leave a review for our shows on whatever podcast service you're listening to them on. We'd really appreciate it. Again, that gets us up in the rankings so more people can discover our show who may be willing to contribute to us financially, which can make a big difference. If you're watching the show on YouTube and you can't afford to help, there's always Twitch Prime, completely free as long as you're an Amazon Prime member. The instructions are down in the description. I just rewrote them in the last week to make them even easier and more clear. You only have to connect your accounts once, and after that, it's literally just 2 clicks. to give us a free $2.50 every month, and you do have to re-up it, and that sucks. I agree. I have petitioned Twitch at least 20 times to let Twitch Prime subscriptions be recurring. It is the most requested thing on all of Twitch's request boards. Every single Twitch streamer wants it. Maybe they'll finally listen and do it, but until then, you do have to re-up it every month. I do kind of enjoy the fact that I get to thank you guys, though, every time you do it. Speaking of which, The Legacy just subscribed with Twitch Prime. Thank you for that, and I missed that earlier. I just want to make sure there's anyone else. Nope, that's it. Matt, thanks again for opening up your home to us so we can come here and have a place to do the show. I think it looks pretty good.
Yeah, it looks all right.
I like it. I think the show looks good.
There's a little bit of an under-the-sea dance look to it. But,
yeah, that gradient's good, though, man. Look at that. It goes from green to purple in almost a perfect gradient. So overall, I'm happy with the show. We'll have all the stuff hooked up next week, which means you guys will be more integrated into the show. You actually get to
do like take this and like lift it up so it kind of covers the door a little more. Like, I think it will like you wouldn't be able to tell that it's not a set.
That's true, actually. So anyway, we do gotta go. We ran way over on this show. That's what happens when you talk about one game for almost 2 hours. But we'll see you guys right back here at twitch.tv/SiftedGames at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern next Tuesday. Until then, GameFace is up and out.